Hello, beautiful people. You've just landed on Ben 10 What If. Today's featured story is What If Ben 10 was Azmuth's apprentice. If you're new here, welcome to the family. Hit subscribe and the notification bell. And if you're returning, you know the drill, like and share. Enough talk, let's get into the story. Chapter 1, The Galvan's Gambit. The forest burst into chaos as Ben Tennyson scrambled over fallen logs, his heart pounding. The weird watch thing that had crashed from space and clamped onto his wrist 30 minutes ago kept flashing green. 3 days into summer vacation with Grandpa Max and Cousin Gwen, and already aliens were chasing him. Come on, stupid watch. Ben smacked the device, skidding to a stop behind a massive oak. Do something useful. He twisted the dial, cycling through silhouettes of bizarre creatures. The metal felt warm against his skin, almost alive. When he slammed his palm down on the raised core, emerald light engulfed him. His bones shifted, muscles stretching and compacting. Ben's consciousness expanded into something stronger, faster, and definitely on fire. Whoa! I'm totally a walking matchstick. Ben examined his flame-covered hands, his voice crackling like a campfire. This is so cool. A laser blast splintered the tree beside him. 3 robot drones burst through the underbrush, their single red eyes locking onto the watch symbol on his chest. You want this watch thingy? Come and get some. Ben thrust his hands forward instinctively. Flames erupted from his palms, melting the first drone into slag. The remaining drones circled, firing rapidly. Ben rolled between shots, laughing as adrenaline coursed through his transformed body. I think I'll call this guy Heat Blast. He lobbed fireballs at the second drone, catching it mid-air. 2 down. The final drone switched tactics, spraying fire suppressant foam. Ben's flames dimmed, panic rising. No fair. He concentrated, feeling the heat intensify within his core. The foam evaporated in a burst of steam, and he punched straight through the drone's chassis. Ben! Where are you? Grandpa Max's voice called from the direction of the rust bucket. Coming, Grandpa. Ben raced through the woods, enjoying the sensation of raw power flowing through him. Trees blurred past, the night illuminated by his fiery form. This summer just got 1,000 times more awesome. It's not a toy, doofus. Gwen snatched at Ben's wrist as they sat at the campsite table. 3 days had passed since the watch, the Omnitrix, according to the weird rhino alien who'd attacked yesterday, had attached itself to Ben. Says you. Ben twisted away, cycling through alien forms on the dial. I've stopped 3 bad guys already. I'm basically a superhero now. Grandpa Max set down plates of what he claimed was dinner but looked suspiciously like purple squid tentacles. Ben, we still don't know exactly what that device is capable of. You should be careful. Careful is my middle name. Ben slammed his hand down on the watch core, transforming in a flash of green. Benjamin Careful Tennyson. No wonder you never told anyone, Gwen quipped, backing away from the blue velociraptor that now occupied Ben's seat. I'm calling this one XLR-8. Ben zipped around the campsite in microseconds, creating a whirlwind that sent their paper plates flying. Check out how fast I am. Ben, stop. Grandpa Max shouted as the campfire embers scattered. Ben skidded to a halt, his reptilian face sheepish. Sorry. The timer symbol on his chest beeped and flashed red. Another green flash, and he was human again, the watch face glowing red. Aw man, time out already. Grandpa Max sighed, gathering the scattered dinner. That's what I'm worried about. You're burning through your transformations without thinking about consequences. The only consequence is how jealous Gwen looks when I save the day. Ben grinned, dropping back into his chair. Gwen rolled her eyes. I'd be more impressed if you actually knew what you were doing instead of just smashing everything. Says the girl who can't even. Ben's retort died as the Omnitrix suddenly sparked, shooting pain up his arm. Ouch. The device's faceplate projected a holographic display of DNA helixes and alien writing that shifted and morphed. That's new. Grandpa Max leaned closer. The pain intensified. Ben cried out as the Omnitrix's green glow turned angry red, then purple. The metal heated against his skin. Get it off. Ben yanked at the device, panic rising as the hologram displayed what looked like a countdown. It's gonna explode or something. Hold still. Grandpa Max grabbed Ben's arm, examining the symbols. This looks like some kind of security protocol being overridden. The forest around them darkened as a shadow passed overhead. They looked up to see a massive ship hovering above the tree line, its hull black and red with mechanical tendrils extending downward. That can't be good, Gwen whispered. The ship's underside opened, and a humanoid figure descended on a platform. As it touched down at the edge of their campsite, Ben saw it wasn't human at all. The creature stood barely 2 feet tall, gray-skinned with bulbous green eyes and a cranium that seemed too large for its body. A Galvan, Grandpa Max muttered, stepping protectively in front of the kids. The small alien approached, ignoring Max and Gwen completely. So you're the child who found my Omnitrix. His voice carried surprising authority for something so small. Destroying half a forest and alerting every bounty hunter in the sector to its location. Ben blinked. You're Omnitrix. You made this thing. I am Azmuth of the Galvan, first thinker and creator of the Omnitrix. The diminutive alien's eyes narrowed. And you are a human child playing with a device beyond your comprehension. The Omnitrix sparked again, making Ben wince. Well, if you're so smart, can you get it to stop doing that? It's really starting to hurt. Azmuth jumped onto the picnic table, his small hands moving deftly over the Omnitrix. Someone is attempting to hack the Omnitrix remotely. Crude methods, but concerning nonetheless. Is it the Rhino alien? 6-6. He said others were coming for it. Ben watched Azmuth work, fascinated despite his fear. No. This signature is different. More sophisticated. Azmuth manipulated the holographic display, his fingers moving faster than Ben could follow. There. Temporarily blocked. The pain subsided, and Ben exhaled in relief. Thanks. So, you're here to take it back. Azmuth stood back, studying Ben with analytical eyes. That was my intention. Now wait just a minute, Grandpa Max stepped forward. That device bonded to Ben's DNA. Removing it could, I am aware of the integration protocols, human, Azmuth cut him off. The Omnitrix can be safely removed by its creator. Ben clutched his wrist protectively. But I need it. I've been helping people. You've been drawing attention. Dangerous attention. Azmuth's expression darkened. The Omnitrix wasn't meant for combat, and certainly not for a child seeking thrills. Before Ben could argue further, the night sky lit up with crimson lightning. The air crackled with energy as a swirling vortex formed above the trees. Too late, Azmuth muttered. He's found us. A twisted figure emerged from the portal. It resembled a walking circuit board, a humanoid shape comprised of black and red technological components that shifted and reconfigured constantly. Its face was a grotesque mask of circuitry with a single glowing eye. Malware, Azmuth's voice carried genuine concern for the first time. The creature touched down, leaving scorched earth beneath its feet. Azmuth. Its voice sounded like distorted static. I've tracked your greatest creation across galaxies. How fitting to find both you and the Omnitrix in such a primitive backwater. Ben stepped forward. Hey Circuit Face. I don't know who you are, but this is my planet you're calling primitive. Ben, don't. Grandpa Max tried to pull him back. Malware's eye focused on Ben. So the wielder is merely a human child. Disappointing. His arm morphed into a cannon. Relinquish the Omnitrix, and your death will be painless. Ben slapped at the Omnitrix, but the face remained red. Come on, recharge already. Malware fired. Grandpa Max shoved both kids aside as the energy blast obliterated their picnic table. Azmuth leapt clear, landing beside Ben. The Omnitrix isn't just a weapon, boy, Azmuth said urgently. If malware absorbs its technology, he'll become unstoppable. Great, so help me use it. Ben frantically twisted the dial as they ducked behind the rust bucket. Azmuth grabbed Ben's wrist, his touch surprisingly strong. Listen to me. Malware is a corrupted galvanic mechamorph. He doesn't want to take the Omnitrix, he wants to corrupt it, absorb its evolutionary technology. In English, please. Ben peered around the RV as malware stalked closer, absorbing a satellite dish from the rust bucket and incorporating it into his form. He's a technological parasite, Azmuth simplified. And right now, you're wearing the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Another blast rocked the rust bucket. Gwen screamed as shrapnel flew past her head. I need to protect you kids, Grandpa Max muttered, reaching under the RV's seat and pulling out what looked suspiciously like an alien blaster. Whoa, Grandpa has alien tech. Ben gaped. Not now, Ben. Gwen yanked him down as malware's cannon fire passed overhead. The Omnitrix finally beeped, its face turning green. Ben grinned. Game on. No. Azmuth grabbed his hand. Transforming now is exactly what malware wants. If you activate the Omnitrix while he's this close, his corruption can piggyback on the transformation wave. So what do we do? Ben asked as another blast shook their cover. Azmuth's expression shifted from irritation to calculation. Perhaps, a test. He reached into his tunic and pulled out a small device. This contains a fraction of the Omnitrix's base code. A decoy. If you can lead malware away while I recalibrate your Omnitrix to resist his corruption. You want me to be bait? Without alien powers? Ben's voice cracked. Unless you prefer I remove the Omnitrix now. Azmuth raised an eyebrow. Ben looked at the terrified Gwen, at Grandpa Max preparing to fight with his mysterious weapon, and back to the small alien inventor. Something in Azmuth's eyes suggested this wasn't just about protecting the Omnitrix. He was being tested. Fine, Ben snatched the decoy. But when I get back, I want answers about this thing on my wrist. Azmuth nodded. Agreed. Now run, and keep malware distracted for 5 minutes. Ben took a deep breath and sprinted from behind the rust bucket. Hey, circuit brain. Looking for this? He held up Azmuth's device. Malware's eye swiveled. The Omnitrix cannot be removed so easily, child. This isn't the watch, bolt breath. It's the control key. Ben improvised, backing away. Can't use the Omnitrix without it. That's why I've been stuck with the same 10 aliens. The lie was desperate, but something in what he said caught malware's attention. The creature's body reconfigured, becoming sleeker, built for pursuit. You think I cannot detect deception, human? Malware snarled, but his eye remained fixed on the device in Ben's hand. What is Azmuth planning? Only one way to find out. Ben turned and ran full tilt into the forest. Malware roared and gave chase, exactly as Ben had hoped. The corrupted mechamorph moved with frightening speed, but Ben knew these woods from exploring the past few days. He ducked under low branches that malware smashed through, zigzagged between trees, and splashed through a shallow stream to throw off pursuit. You merely delay the inevitable. Malware called, blasting a fallen log that Ben had just vaulted over. Ben's lungs burned as he pushed himself harder. Without XLR-8 speed or forearm strength, he felt painfully vulnerable. His foot caught on a root, and he tumbled down a short embankment, the decoy device flying from his grip. Malware loomed over him, reaching for the fallen tech. Whatever game Azmuth is playing ends now. Ben scrambled backward, mud coating his clothes. Why do you hate him so much anyway? What did Azmuth ever do to you? Malware paused, his circuitry flickering. He created me, child. Created me flawed, refused to fix me, then replaced me with perfect versions. The creature's form rippled with rage. I was his first galvanic mechamorph prototype. A failed experiment he abandoned. The genuine pain in Malware's distorted voice made Ben hesitate. So you're like, what? Getting revenge? I am claiming what I deserve. Malware reached for the device. The evolutionary completion Azmuth denied me. As Malware's fingers touched Azmuth's device, it glowed brilliant blue. Energy arced through the corrupted mechamorph, forcing him to his knees. Containment field. Malware snarled, his body destabilizing. You tricked me. Ben backed away as Malware struggled against the energy tethering him to the small device. Guess that's a habit of Azmuth's. Tricking people. Malware's eye fixed on Ben with pure hatred. Release me, and I will spare your life. Azmuth uses everyone, child. Soon you'll be discarded too. A twig snapped behind Ben. He turned to see Azmuth approaching, flanked by Grandpa Max and Gwen. The only one I discarded was you, Malware, Azmuth said, his voice heavy. And only after you tried to destroy everything I built. You promised to help me. Malware strained against the energy field. And I tried. For decades. Azmuth's shoulders slumped slightly. Your condition was beyond even my abilities to correct. Ben looked between the trapped mechamorph and his creator. So he's telling the truth. You made him like this? I made him, yes. His corruption was an unforeseen consequence of experimental technology. Azmuth approached the containment field. What happened afterward was his choice. He's destroyed worlds seeking upgrade paths for his unstable form. Malware laughed bitterly. And you've destroyed more with your creations than I ever could. The Omnitrix itself will bring war to thousands of worlds. Okay, time out. Ben stepped between them. What's he talking about? You said this watch was supposed to help people. It is, Azmuth insisted, but his eyes darted away. In the right hands. And you think those are the hands of a human child? Malware mocked. Your arrogance is undiminished, first thinker. Grandpa Max put his hand on Ben's shoulder. We should get back to the rust bucket. Whatever Azmuth needs to do with him, we can discuss the Omnitrix there. The containment won't hold for long, Azmuth warned. I need to secure Malware before he breaks free. Ben stared at his wrist, then at the struggling Malware. This thing is more than just a fancy alien watch, isn't it? What's it really for, Azmuth? Azmuth sighed. It's a tool for understanding, Benjamin Tennyson. The greatest repository of sentient DNA in the galaxy, created so that beings might literally walk in another species' skin. To foster empathy among different lifeforms. But that's, actually pretty cool, Ben admitted. Yet you use it to smash things and play hero, Azmuth noted dryly. That too, Ben grinned. But I have helped people with it. Malware's containment field flickered. Such noble intentions, he sneered. Tell the boy what else it can do, Azmuth. Tell him about its destructive capabilities. Azmuth's expression hardened. Any tool can be weaponized by those with ill intent. Guys? Gwen pointed at the containment field. I think that's breaking. The blue energy destabilized as Malware poured corruption into the device. With a final surge, the field collapsed, and Malware rose to his full height, parts of his body glowing with absorbed energy. Now I have a portion of Omnitrix code, he growled triumphantly. A start, at least. Azmuth stepped in front of Ben. Run. All of you. No way, Ben twisted the Omnitrix dial. I've got this. Ben, don't. Azmuth warned, but Ben had already slammed his palm down. Green light engulfed him as he transformed into a crystalline being with rainbow reflective surfaces and a sharp-edged body. Diamond Head. Ben felt strength course through his transformed body. Let's see how your tech-absorbing tricks work on solid crystal. Malware laughed, the sound distorting into digital feedback. Perfect. Come to me, Petrosapien. Ben charged, forming his arm into a crystal blade. He slashed at Malware, who caught the blade with his bare hand. Where they connected, Ben felt a strange draining sensation. Your crystalline form has nanite structures, child, Malware explained, as black corruption began creeping up Ben's arm. Technology one can corrupt. Pain shot through Ben's transformed body as Malware's infection spread. The Omnitrix symbol on his chest flickered. Let go. Ben formed crystal spikes all over his body, forcing Malware to release him. He stumbled back, examining his arm where black corruption was slowly receding. What did you do to me? Merely a taste of what's to come. Malware's body reconfigured, forming weapons from every surface. Now surrender the Omnitrix, or watch your family perish. Enough. Azmuth jumped onto Ben's crystalline shoulder. Malware, this conflict is between us. Leave the humans out of it. Too late for that. Malware aimed his weapons at Gwen and Grandpa Max. You brought them into this by leaving your precious Omnitrix here. Ben felt Azmuth's tiny hand on his neck. I need you to trust me, the Galvan whispered. When I say now, deactivate the Omnitrix. What? That'll leave me defenseless. Now, Ben. Something in Azmuth's tone compelled obedience. Ben slapped the Omnitrix symbol, transforming back to human in a flash of green light. The instant he did, Azmuth leapt from his shoulder, a device in his hands that he hadn't been holding before. The tiny alien fired a pulse of energy that hit Malware square in his eye. The corrupted mechamorph screamed, his body destabilizing. Quantum destabilizer, Azmuth explained as Malware's form began to break apart. Specifically calibrated to your unique frequency, Malware. It won't destroy you, but it will send you back to Galvan Prime's containment field. This isn't over. Malware's body collapsed inward, turning into a swirling vortex of black and red energy. I will have the Omnitrix. I will be complete. With a final shriek, Malware disappeared in a flash of crimson light. Ben stared at the scorched ground where the creature had stood. Is he gone? Temporarily, Azmuth pocketed his device. The destabilizer will keep him imprisoned for a few months at most. He grows stronger with each encounter. Grandpa Max approached, his alien blaster still in hand. I think you owe us some explanations, Azmuth. Starting with why you left the most powerful device in the galaxy where a 10-year-old could find it. I didn't leave it here, Azmuth said irritably. It was stolen from my laboratory. I tracked it to Earth after it activated. He looked at Ben appraisingly. Though I admit, I'm curious how a human child managed to use the Omnitrix so effectively, given its complexity. Ben shrugged. I just hit the button and go with it. No big deal. No big deal. Azmuth raised an eyebrow. Do you have any idea how many fail-safes you bypassed? How many trained soldiers and scientists have failed to operate even the most basic functions that you mastered in days? Wait, are you saying Ben did something right? Gwen looked shocked. I didn't say that. Azmuth climbed onto a rock to be at eye level with the humans. But there is potential here. Untrained, undisciplined potential, but remarkable adaptability nonetheless. Ben beamed. See? I told you I was good at this hero stuff. I said potential, not accomplishment. Azmuth studied the Omnitrix on Ben's wrist. You've barely scratched the surface of what the Omnitrix can do, and your reckless usage nearly got you and your family killed tonight. Ben's smile faded. So what now? You're taking it away. Azmuth fell silent, his enormous eyes blinking slowly as he appeared lost in calculation. Perhaps, an alternative approach. Alternative to what? Grandpa Max asked suspiciously. To reclaiming the Omnitrix. Azmuth faced Ben directly. How would you like to learn what that device is truly capable of, Benjamin Tennyson? Ben's eyes widened. You mean like, upgrade it? Get more aliens? I mean understand it. Master it. Not just use it like a blunt instrument. Azmuth's voice grew intense. The Omnitrix contains the DNA of over 1 million sentient species. It can do far more than turn you into 10 random aliens for fighting. 1 million. Ben and Gwen gasped simultaneously. Azmuth, Grandpa Max said cautiously, what exactly are you proposing? The Galvan straightened to his full height, which wasn't much. I propose an apprenticeship. The boy keeps the Omnitrix, under my supervision and training. He learns its true purpose and functions. In return, I gain an assistant and field tester for my creation. You want to take Ben away? Gwen asked, looking unexpectedly concerned. Not permanently. But yes, there would be periods of off-world training. Azmuth turned to Grandpa Max, your grandfather appears to have experience with extraterrestrial matters. He understands the importance of what I'm offering. All eyes turned to Max, who shifted uncomfortably. I may have some familiarity with interstellar affairs. Grandpa. Ben and Gwen exclaimed together. Later, Max told them firmly before addressing Azmuth. Ben is just a kid. He has school, family, a normal life. Had, Azmuth corrected. The moment the Omnitrix bonded to him, normalcy ended. You know this, Tennyson. The device has already been detected by malware, 66, and likely others. They will come, again and again. Then take it off him. Gwen insisted. Ben clutched his wrist protectively. No way. Even if I removed it, the problem remains, Azmuth explained. Ben has been the Omnitrix wielder. That makes him a target regardless. At least with proper training, he stands a chance. Ben looked at the device on his wrist with new reverence. I want to learn. If this thing is as important as you say, I want to know how to use it right. Ben, honey, this is a big decision, Grandpa Max knelt beside him. Being Azmuth's apprentice would mean responsibilities most adults couldn't handle. I know, Ben nodded solemnly before breaking into a wide grin. But it also means space travel and alien tech and being an actual superhero with the guy who invented my superpowers as my teacher. How cool is that? Max sighed, recognizing the determined gleam in his grandson's eye. Azmuth, if we agree to this, I have conditions. Such as? The Galvan crossed his arms. Ben's safety comes first. His education continues, both human and, whatever you plan to teach him. And he needs time on Earth with his family. Max's expression brooked no argument. And I want to know exactly what you're training him for. Azmuth considered this. Acceptable terms, though some flexibility will be required. Particularly during emergencies. Emergencies like malware? Ben asked. Malware is but one threat. Azmuth's expression darkened. There are those who would use the Omnitrix as a weapon of mass destruction. Others who would disassemble it for its technology. The galaxy is full of dangers, Ben Tennyson, many of which now have your scent. Way to sell the apprenticeship, Gwen muttered. I'm just being honest. Azmuth turned back to Ben. This will not be easy. I am a demanding teacher, and the subjects I will expect you to master go far beyond transforming into aliens and punching things. Ben swallowed hard but stood straighter. I can handle it. We shall see. For the first time, Azmuth's stern expression softened slightly. You showed resourcefulness tonight. Facing malware without powers required courage. So when do we start? Ben asked eagerly. Immediately. Azmuth hopped onto Ben's shoulder. First lesson, proper Omnitrix maintenance. Ben sat cross-legged on the roof of the rust bucket, watching the sunrise. Beside him, Azmuth had the Omnitrix in partial disassembly mode, the faceplate projected upward in an expanded holographic display while remaining attached to Ben's wrist. The transformation matrix contains automatic failsafes, Azmuth explained, manipulating the glowing interface. These prevent incomplete genetic reconstruction. So that's why I always get the whole alien, not just parts. Ben yawned. They'd been at this for hours. Precisely. Though with proper calibration. Azmuth adjusted something, and the hologram shifted. The Omnitrix could theoretically combine traits from multiple species. Ben perked up. You mean like, heat blasts fire with forearm strength? That would be awesome. And incredibly dangerous, Azmuth noted dryly. Genetic splicing at that level requires perfect balance. One miscalculation and your DNA could be permanently corrupted. Right. Bad. Ben tried to look appropriately serious, but his mind raced with combo possibilities. Azmuth noticed his expression and sighed. This is what concerns me about having a 10-year-old wielder. You see the flash without considering the burn. I'm almost 11, Ben countered reflexively. A critical distinction, I'm sure. Azmuth manipulated the interface again. Focus, Apprentice. The codon stream is the Omnitrix's connection to the DNA repository. Without it, transformations would be impossible. Ben forced himself to pay attention. So it's like, streaming alien Netflix? Azmuth blinked. An absurd but not entirely inaccurate analogy. The codon stream transmits genetic data from Primus, the living planet that houses the DNA samples, to the Omnitrix. A living planet? There's a whole planet that's part of this watch. The Omnitrix is merely the interface. Primus is the heart. Azmuth closed the holographic display. We will visit it eventually, once you've proven responsible enough. Ben's eyes gleamed with excitement. So I'll get to go to alien planets. When? When you've mastered the basics, Azmuth stated firmly. Which, at this rate, might be when you're 30. Ah, come on. I'm learning. You're half listening while daydreaming about combat applications. Azmuth crossed his arms. The Omnitrix was created to foster peace and understanding between species, not to create the ultimate warrior. Ben slumped. But the fighting part is what makes it fun. And that attitude is precisely the problem. Azmuth jumped from the RV roof to a nearby tree branch, staring out at the forest. Power without wisdom is destructive, Ben. The Omnitrix gives you incredible abilities, but without understanding their context, the cultures, biology, and evolution behind each transformation, you're merely playing dress-up. That's not fair. I've helped people. Through brute force and luck. Azmuth turned back to face him. What do you know about a Pyronite's culture? Or Petrosapien reproduction? Or Tetramand honor codes? Ben scratched his head. Nothing. Yet you wear their forms, use their bodies. Azmuth's voice softened slightly. Imagine someone stepping into your skin, using your appearance to act in ways that might shame or misrepresent humans. Would that seem right to you? Ben hadn't considered that angle before. No, I guess not. This is why I created the Omnitrix, so beings could truly understand one another by experiencing life through different forms. Azmuth hopped back to the RV roof. The combat applications were secondary, a concession to reality. Inside the rust bucket, movement and voices indicated Grandpa Max and Gwen were awake. Ben glanced at the sun, now fully above the horizon. They'd been talking all night. So what happens now? Ben asked. Do I go with you to space or something? Not yet. Azmuth reconfigured the Omnitrix with a few quick touches. First, you'll continue your summer vacation. I've added a communication function to the Omnitrix. I'll assign you studies and check your progress remotely. Homework? Seriously? Ben groaned. It's summer. The universe doesn't take vacations, Ben Tennyson, and neither will you as my apprentice. Azmuth's tone brooked no argument. You'll need to learn basic Galvan mathematics, principles of xenobiology, and rudimentary quantum mechanics before you're ready for off-world training. Quantum what now? Ben's face fell. Relax. I've calibrated the lessons for human cognitive development. Azmuth actually smiled slightly. Though I expect you to exceed those limitations. The rust bucket door opened, and Grandpa Max stepped out. Morning, you two. Been up all night? We've been reviewing Omnitrix fundamentals, Azmuth replied. Your grandson has much to learn, but shows marginal aptitude. From you, I'm guessing that's practically a gold star, Max chuckled. Breakfast is ready inside. Ben's stomach growled loudly. Sweet. I'm starving. He jumped down from the roof and dashed inside. Max and Azmuth watched him go. Are you sure about this, Azmuth? Max asked quietly. He's just a boy. A boy with the most powerful device in the galaxy strapped to his wrist. Azmuth sighed. No, I'm not sure. But I've calculated the alternatives. Training him offers the highest probability of positive outcomes. And what exactly do you hope to achieve with this apprenticeship? Azmuth stared toward the sky thoughtfully. The Omnitrix was created to preserve and understand diversity across the cosmos. Perhaps, in the hands of someone who views the universe with the wonder of a child rather than the ambition of a conqueror, it might finally fulfill its true purpose. And if he fails? Max pressed. Then I miscalculated, and we all pay the price. Azmuth's expression hardened. But I didn't become first thinker by avoiding risks, Tennyson. The boy has something rare, an intuitive connection to the Omnitrix that shouldn't be possible for a human. I intend to understand why. Inside the rust bucket, Ben stared at his cereal, mind reeling from everything that had happened. The Omnitrix, Azmuth, malware, the apprenticeship. His ordinary summer vacation had transformed into something beyond his wildest dreams. Gwen sat across from him, watching him suspiciously. You're being weirdly quiet. Did alien brain guy fry your few remaining neurons? Very funny. Ben flicked a cereal piece at her. I'm just thinking. Don't hurt yourself. Ha ha. Ben examined the Omnitrix, noticing new symbols on its interface after Azmuth's adjustments. Hey Gwen. Do you think I can really do this? All the science stuff Azmuth wants me to learn sounds super boring and hard. Gwen's expression softened unexpectedly. Since when does Ben Tennyson back down from a challenge? You jumped into fighting aliens without hesitating. That's different. Punching bad guys is easy. Ben stirred his cereal absently. Understanding alien quantum whatever isn't. Look, doofus, you can barely pass regular school, Gwen said bluntly. But you figured out how to use that watch faster than anyone should have. So maybe you're not as dumb as you act. Was that actually a compliment? Ben grinned. Don't get used to it. Gwen rolled her eyes. Besides, if you're busy learning from Azmuth, maybe you'll annoy me less. The rust bucket door opened as Grandpa Max and Azmuth entered. The tiny alien hopped onto the table, eyeing Ben's breakfast with disdain. Your primitive nutrition intake is concerning, he noted. Says the guy who's smaller than the spoon, Ben retorted. To everyone's surprise, Azmuth chuckled. Humor. Good. You'll need it where we're going. And where exactly is that? Grandpa Max asked as he joined them at the table. For now. Wherever your travel plans take you. Azmuth produced a small device that expanded into a holographic star chart. Though I suggest avoiding major population centers until Ben has better control. I've mapped several optimal locations for training exercises. Ben peered at the glowing map. Are those UFO hotspots? Areas with minimal civilian presence but suitable environmental challenges, Azmuth corrected. You'll need space to practice without destroying human property or exposing extraterrestrial existence to your species. Yeah, about that, Grandpa Max cleared his throat. How exactly do we explain to Ben's parents that he's now apprenticed to an alien inventor? Azmuth raised an eyebrow. You've managed to conceal your own extraterrestrial connections from them. I'm sure you'll devise something appropriate. Gwen's jaw dropped. Grandpa's what now? Max sighed heavily. I suppose I have some explaining to do. Later, Azmuth waved dismissively. First, Ben needs to complete his initial assessment. Ben looked up from his cereal. What assessment? A practical examination of your current abilities. Azmuth tapped the Omnitrix, causing it to glow green. Let's see what you can do without instruction. You mean like a test drive? Ben brightened. Awesome. Which alien? All of them. Azmuth jumped to Ben's shoulder. We're going to evaluate each transformation's capabilities, strengths, and weaknesses. Then you'll learn their proper names, biology, and cultural context. Ben groaned. That sounds like school. Everything is school, Ben Tennyson. Azmuth's eyes gleamed with something approaching enthusiasm. The universe is the greatest classroom of all. Now finish your nutritionally dubious breakfast. We have work to do. The clearing was quiet except for Ben's labored breathing. He lay spread eagle on his back, human again, exhausted after 4 hours of transformation exercises. Tetraman upper body strength, adequate. Pyronite temperature control, poor. Petrosapien crystalline manipulation, surprisingly advanced. Azmuth paced nearby, dictating notes to a floating device. Subject shows natural aptitude for physical adaptations but struggles with fine control. Can we take a break? Ben gasped, not bothering to lift his head. I'm dying here. Humans, Azmuth muttered. Such limited endurance. Nevertheless, he gestured for the recording device to pause. 5 minutes. Then we test your galvanic mechamorph form. Upgrade. Sweet. Despite his fatigue, Ben perked up. That one's cool. I can merge with technology. A crude description of a complex biomechanical symbiosis, Azmuth corrected, approaching Ben. The galvanic mechamorph species was one of my greatest achievements. Created accidentally when I was terraforming their homeworld, Galvan B. Ben sat up, genuinely interested. Wait, you created a whole alien species? Not intentionally. Azmuth seemed almost embarrassed. The nanotechnology we used to transform Galvan B interacted with local minerals in unexpected ways. The result was a sentient technological species that evolved within days rather than millennia. That's actually pretty amazing, Ben admitted. So upgrade, I mean, galvanic mechamorphs, they're like your children or something? Azmuth considered this. In a manner of speaking. Though unlike malware, the species developed naturally after their initial creation. What went wrong with him? Ben asked quietly. Malware, I mean. Azmuth's expression darkened. A corruption in his creation process. While other mechamorphs could upgrade technology temporarily, malware absorbed it permanently, corrupting himself further with each integration. I spent years trying to repair his code, but he thinks you abandoned him. Perhaps I did, Azmuth admitted, surprising Ben with his candor. After my third attempt to repair him failed, I focused on helping the healthy mechamorphs develop their society instead. Malware saw this as betrayal. Ben thought about this. So even super-smart aliens make mistakes. Intelligence doesn't prevent error, Ben Tennyson. It merely provides more opportunities to recognize and learn from them. Azmuth adjusted something on the Omnitrix. Your break is over. Transform into your mechamorph form, but this time, focus on the internal circuitry shift, not just the external change. The what now? When you become upgrade, don't just think about merging with technology. Feel the pathways of data flow within your new form. Azmuth stepped back. Try to maintain awareness of your individual nanites. Okay. Ben activated the Omnitrix, scrolling to the upgrade silhouette. Here goes nothing. The familiar green light engulfed him as his body dissolved into living metal and circuitry. When the transformation completed, Ben looked down at his black body with green circuit patterns. Now what? His voice had the distinctive electronic modulation of upgrade. Close your visual sensors, Azmuth instructed. Focus inward. Your mechamorph form consists of billions of nanoscopic units working in harmony. Try to sense them. Ben shut his singular eye and concentrated. At first, he felt nothing unusual, just the strange sensation of existing as living technology. But as he focused harder, he began to sense something, a constant flow of data, like countless tiny rivers merging into streams, then into greater currents of information. I feel something, Ben said slowly. Like I'm made of millions of tiny pieces all talking to each other. Good. Now try to direct that flow. Azmuth's voice seemed distant as Ben's awareness turned inward. Imagine a circuit being completed between your right appendage and your central processing node. Ben concentrated, visualizing a pathway through the rushing data streams. To his amazement, he felt energy divert through his form, creating a glowing circuit from his center to his right arm. I did it. His eyes snapped open to see his arm glowing brighter than the rest of his body. A minor achievement, but progress nonetheless. Azmuth nodded approvingly. The mechamorph form has far more potential than simple technological possession. With proper control, you could process data faster than Earth's most advanced computers, interface with systems without fully merging, even create technological constructs from your own substance. You mean I could make tech? Like, from scratch? Ben looked at his hands with newfound appreciation. With sufficient practice and understanding, yes. Azmuth pointed to a fallen tree branch. Try creating a simple circuit on that organic material. Ben approached the branch, kneeling beside it. So I just touch it and think circuit. Focus on the basic principles of electrical conductivity. Visualize copper pathways, semiconductor junctions, capacitors. I don't know what any of those are, Ben admitted. Azmuth sighed. This is why education must precede application. Very well, a simpler approach. Touch the branch and visualize a basic pattern of energy flow, like water through pipes. Ben placed his hand on the branch and concentrated. His black and green substance flowed over the wood, but instead of fully enveloping it as he normally would, he tried to create pathways, channels for energy to flow through. To his surprise, the wood began to glow with faint green lines where his nanites had restructured the cellular material. I'm doing it! Ben exclaimed. The moment his concentration broke, however, the glow faded and his substance retreated. A crude attempt, but the potential is evident. Azmuth made more notes on his floating device. Your instinctive use of the Omnitrix continues to defy expectations. Most beings require years to achieve even basic control of forms outside their native biology. So I'm awesome, right? Ben struck a pose. You're unusual, Azmuth corrected. Which makes you potentially valuable as a test subject. Test subject? Ben crossed his arms. I thought I was your apprentice. The two aren't mutually exclusive. Azmuth approached as Ben transformed back to human form, the Omnitrix timing out. By studying how you adapt to alien forms, I can refine the Omnitrix's interface. And by training you properly, I ensure my creation isn't misused. Win-win, I guess. Ben rubbed his sore arms. So what's next, Professor Azmuth? The Galvan actually smiled slightly at the title. Next, we begin your education in earnest. The Omnitrix's communication function will provide daily lessons in xenobiology, basic technological principles, and interstellar diplomacy. Diplomacy? Ben made a face. I'm more the punch-first type. Precisely why you need to learn alternatives. Azmuth tapped the Omnitrix, bringing up a holographic display of lesson modules. Not every problem can be solved with transformation and combat. Sometimes words prevent more destruction than any display of power. Ben stared at the overwhelming amount of information. This is gonna take forever to learn. Which is why we start now. Azmuth's tone softened slightly. You have potential, Ben Tennyson. Raw, undisciplined potential that reminds me of myself at a much younger age. Don't squander it by focusing only on the Omnitrix's more entertaining applications. For once, Ben didn't have a smart comeback. The gravity of what Azmuth was offering, not just alien powers, but knowledge beyond anything humans possessed, finally began to sink in. I'll try, he promised. But you gotta make it at least a little fun, or my brain will explode. Educational engagement is a reasonable requirement. Azmuth nodded. Perhaps we can incorporate practical applications with theoretical knowledge. Like blowing stuff up while learning alien math. Like understanding why certain molecular structures are combustible and calculating optimal thermal transfer, Azmuth countered. But yes, things may occasionally explode, for science. Ben grinned. Now you're speaking my language. From the tree-line, Gwen and Grandpa Max watched the unlikely pair, the diminutive genius and the hyperactive boy, as they continued discussing training protocols. This is so weird, Gwen murmured. Ben actually seems interested in learning something. Azmuth has a way of inspiring curiosity, Max replied. Even in the most unlikely students. You know him, don't you? From before. Gwen looked up at her grandfather suspiciously. That alien bounty hunter called you Max Tennyson like he knew you too. What haven't you told us, Grandpa? Max sighed heavily. That's a very long story, Pumpkin. One I should have shared with you kids a long time ago. Before he could continue, the ground rumbled beneath their feet. Birds scattered from trees as a low, mechanical whine filled the air. Ben and Azmuth both looked up sharply as a shadow passed overhead. That's not malware returning, Azmuth said grimly. Something larger. More aliens after the Omnitrix. Ben was already activating the device, cycling through his available transformations. Most likely. Azmuth hopped onto Ben's shoulder. This is why training matters, Apprentice. Time for your first real test. A massive ship broke through the cloud cover, sleek, predatory, bristling with weapons. As it hovered above the clearing, a hatch opened in its underside, and a hulking figure dropped to the ground with earth-shaking force. The dust cleared to reveal an armored warrior standing at least 8 feet tall. Its face was hidden behind a respirator mask, and tubes connected various parts of its exoskeleton. When it spoke, the voice was deep and menacing. Azmuth of the Galvan. At last we meet. The figure's attention shifted to Ben. And you must be the human child who found the Omnitrix. How fortunate to find you both in one place. Who's the walking scrap heap? Ben whispered. Vilgax, Azmuth replied tersely. Conqueror of worlds. And one of the many reasons I created failsafes in the Omnitrix. Failsafes that this child has somehow bypassed, Vilgax noted, stepping forward. Impressive, but ultimately meaningless. The Omnitrix belongs in worthy hands. My hands. Ben placed himself between Vilgax and his family. Sorry, tentacle face, but finders keepers. Plus, I'm kind of in training here. Training? Vilgax laughed, a chilling sound. Azmuth, you would waste the universe's most powerful weapon on a human child. The Omnitrix is not a weapon, Azmuth stated firmly. And Ben Tennyson has shown more worthiness to wield it than you ever could, Vilgax. Ben glanced at Azmuth in surprise. After all the criticism, this unexpected defense felt significant. Vilgax's eyes narrowed. Then I will take it by force. He raised his arm, and a targeting system deployed from his gauntlet. Surrender the device, or face extinction. Ben looked at the Omnitrix, then at Azmuth, silently asking permission. The Galvan nodded once. Lesson 1, Apprentice, Azmuth said quietly. Know when words fail. Ben grinned and slammed his hand down on the Omnitrix. It's hero time. As green light engulfed him, Ben felt the familiar rush of transformation. But this time, with Azmuth's training fresh in his mind, he tried to focus on the internal changes, not just the physical ones. He reached for a form with both strength and intelligence, the perfect combination to face Vilgax. The light faded to reveal Ben in a completely new alien form he'd never used before. Four-armed like forearms, but with skin the color of clay and an enlarged cranium. A strange combination of brute strength and evident intelligence. Whoa! New alien. Ben examined his transformed body in surprise. A Tetraman Galvan hybrid? Azmuth looked equally shocked. The genetic lock should prevent cross-species transformation. Vilgax stepped back. What trickery is this? Ben felt power coursing through him, both physical strength and accelerated thought processes. Knowledge seemed to flow directly into his mind, as if the Galvan DNA was enhancing his cognitive abilities while the Tetraman aspects provided raw power. I don't know what I am, Ben said, his voice deeper but articulate, but I know exactly what to do with it. As Vilgax charged forward, Ben met the attack with newfound confidence. For the first time since finding the Omnitrix, he wasn't just fighting on instinct. He was calculating trajectories, analyzing weaknesses, predicting movements. The battle was joined, and Azmuth watched with growing interest as his reluctant apprentice faced his first real test. Perhaps, the Galvan inventor murmured, this arrangement will be more enlightening than I anticipated. Chapter 2, Minds and Monsters, Come on, come on. Ben muttered, hunched over the workbench in the modified RV garage. 6 months had passed since Azmuth had taken him as an apprentice, and Grandpa Max had converted part of the rust bucket into a lab space for their work. Ben's fingers, steadier than they'd ever been before, manipulated tiny components under a magnification field. The holographic schematic floating above the bench highlighted a critical junction in red. The power coupling still misaligned, he grumbled, adjusting a microscopic connection. Your approach is inefficient, Azmuth commented from his perch on a nearby shelf. Galvanic integration requires considering quantum entanglement at the subatomic level. Yeah, but human tools work differently. Ben didn't look up as he made another delicate adjustment. Trust me, I've got this. The tiny device on the bench, a modified Omnitrix interface module, suddenly glowed green instead of red. Ben pumped his fist. Yes. Told you I could calibrate it manually. Azmuth hopped down, examining Ben's work with critical eyes. Adequate. Though it took you 17 minutes longer than the Galvan method would have. But I did it with Earth tech in my own hands, Ben countered, leaning back with a satisfied grin. That's what you're always saying, right? Understanding the principles matters more than having advanced tools. Using my words against me. Perhaps you are learning something after all. A ghost of a smile crossed Azmuth's face before he quickly suppressed it. Ben carefully lifted the completed module. So this will let me access the secondary DNA samples. Theoretically, yes. The genetic stabilizer should allow transformation into less compatible species without cellular degradation. Azmuth adjusted his tunic. Though I still question the wisdom of expanding your arsenal when you've barely mastered your original 10 forms. Ah, come on. I've totally gotten better. Ben protested. Last week I held Diamond Head's form for the full timing cycle while maintaining crystalline molecular cohesion under extreme pressure. That's exactly what you asked for. After 4 previous failures, Azmuth reminded him, but without his usual sharp tone. However, your progress has been acceptable. From Ben, that was practically a standing ovation. So we can install it? After proper safety protocols and systems checks. Azmuth produced a scanning device from his pocket. The Omnitrix is not a toy to be modified on a whim, Benjamin. Ben rolled his eyes but extended his wrist. The past 6 months had taught him that arguing with Azmuth about safety measures was pointless. Besides, the one time he tried activating an untested modification, he'd been stuck as half heat blast, half stinkfly for 3 excruciating hours. As Azmuth ran the scanner over the Omnitrix, the garage door opened and Gwen poked her head in. "Are you two still playing mad scientist?" she asked. "Grandpa says dinner's ready, and he made something that's actually edible tonight." "Real food?" Ben's stomach growled on cue. "What is it?" "Burgers. Normal, Earth burgers." Gwen glanced at Azmuth. We have some salad for you, Azmuth. No weird ingredients, I promise." "Your species' notion of weird ingredients is entirely subjective," Azmuth replied dryly. "But I appreciate the consideration." Ben carefully placed the module in a containment field. "System check first, then food?" Azmuth nodded approvingly. "A responsible suggestion. Perhaps there's hope for you yet." Around the dinner table, Ben devoured his second burger while Azmuth nibbled on a lettuce leaf that seemed enormous in his tiny hands. Grandpa Max watched the pair with amusement. "So how's the training going? Any new breakthrough with the watch?" Max asked. "Ben successfully calibrated a genetic stabilizer module today," Azmuth answered before Ben could speak with his mouth full. "His understanding of cross-species DNA compatibility has improved significantly." Translation: "I built a thing that'll let me turn into even more aliens," Ben said after swallowing. "And I did it with regular Earth tools, not fancy Galvan tech." Gwen looked impressed despite herself. "Wait, you actually built something? With your hands? The same hands that couldn't even make a paper airplane last year?" "Ha ha." Ben grabbed another handful of fries. "You should see what I can do with the Omnitrix now, too. Watch this." He twisted the dial with practiced precision, but instead of slapping it down, he pressed 2 recessed points on either side of the faceplate. The Omnitrix core popped up, but instead of activating, it projected a holographic display of alien DNA strands. "Command function, species catalog, recent acquisitions," Ben stated clearly. The hologram shifted, showing 10 new alien silhouettes. "You've doubled your collection?" Gwen leaned forward with interest. "These are just the unlocked samples," Ben explained, a touch of pride in his voice. "There's like 1,000,000 more in the codon stream, but Azmuth only lets me access new ones after I master the previous set." "Mastery is a generous term for your current proficiency," Azmuth commented, but there was no real bite to his words. "Though your progress exceeds initial projections." Grandpa Max smiled. That's high praise coming from him. Ben deactivated the display. "The coolest part is I'm starting to understand how the different aliens' biology works. Like, I know why Ripjaws needs water and why gray matter is so smart." He turned to Gwen. "It's actually pretty similar to your magic stuff. Understanding the underlying principles makes controlling the power way easier." Gwen raised an eyebrow. "Did you just compare alien science to magic? And admit my magic is cool?" "I said similar, not cool." Ben grabbed the last burger before she could. "But yeah, I guess they're both about understanding systems and rules." "A surprisingly insightful observation," Azmuth noted. "The fundamental forces that govern both technology and what humans call magic often overlap at quantum levels. See? Even the super-smart alien agrees with me." Ben took a triumphant bite. The comfortable moment was interrupted by an alert from the Omnitrix. Its face flashed yellow, and a small hologram of a map appeared above it. "Unknown energy signature detected," Ben read, suddenly all business. 3 miles northeast, approaching residential areas. Xenotech power emissions, Azmuth confirmed, examining the readings. Possibly pyronite-based weaponry. Ben was already on his feet. Gotta go check it out. Ben, Grandpa Max called as the boy headed for the door, remember your training. Analyze first, act second. And try not to destroy public infrastructure this time, Gwen added. Ben gave a mock salute. Analysis, restraint, minimal property damage. Got it. He paused at the door, looking at Azmuth. Are you coming? The Galvan considered for a moment. This presents a suitable field test opportunity for your genetic stabilizer module. Bring it, we'll implement it on location. Ben grinned. Sweet. Mod on the go. As they headed out, Grandpa Max turned to Gwen. Should we follow them? Probably, Gwen sighed, reaching for her spell book. Ben may be getting smarter, but he's still Ben. Whoa. Ben ducked as a stream of fire blasted over his head, scorching the warehouse wall behind him. Definitely pyronite tech, but way more focused than heat blast's flames. He peered around a stack of crates at the 3 armored figures systematically blasting open shipping containers. Their suits glowed with orange energy lines, and their weapons discharged concentrated fire that melted metal on contact. Azmuth, perched on Ben's shoulder, observed with analytical calm. Thermite raiders. Interstellar mercenaries who specialize in acquiring rare metals. They utilize modified pyronite core technology to cut through security systems. Okay, so alien thieves with fire guns. Got it. Ben reached for the Omnitrix. Time to cool them off. Wait. Azmuth placed a tiny hand on Ben's. What does analysis suggest as the optimal counter? Ben forced himself to stop and think, a skill that hadn't come naturally 6 months ago. Fire-based tech means, water or vacuum would neutralize them. But if they're after metals? His eyes lit up. I know exactly who to use. He activated the Omnitrix, carefully selecting a specific alien rather than slapping it down randomly. In a flash of green light, he transformed into what looked like a humanoid battery, black and green with plugs for fingers and electricity crackling across his body. Buzz shock. Ben's voice had a static quality to it. Perfect for overloading their tech. A Nosodinian. Logical choice, Azmuth approved, having jumped clear before the transformation. Ben darted forward, his body converting to pure electrical energy as he zipped between crates. He materialized behind the first raider and jammed his plug fingers into the alien suit backpack. Special delivery. 10,000 volts, coming right up. Electricity surged through the raider's suit. The orange energy lines flared bright before shorting out, and the alien collapsed, his weapon powering down. One down. Ben converted back to energy, dodging retaliatory fire blasts from the remaining raiders. The human child possesses a Nosodinian transformation, one raider shouted. Activate EMP countermeasures. Oh no you don't. Ben diverted his electrical form into the warehouse lighting system, traveling through the wiring until he emerged from a socket near the main breaker box. With a sharp gesture, he sent a power surge through the entire warehouse. The lights exploded in cascading bursts, plunging the building into darkness except for the glow of the raiders' suits, which made them perfect targets. Can't hit what you can't see, Ben taunted, his body naturally illuminating with electrical energy as he darted among the shadows. But I can see you just fine. He launched himself at the second raider, splitting into multiple electrical duplicates that swarmed the alien from all angles. The raider tried to activate his countermeasure, but Ben was too fast, overloading the suit systems before it could deploy. Just you and me now, Ben called to the final raider, reconstituting into his buzzshock form. Want to surrender, or get the same shock treatment? The last raider backed toward the exit, weapon trained on Ben. The Omnitrix wielder. Vilgax will pay handsomely for your capture. Ben's electrical eyes narrowed. Vilgax sent you. We have many clients, the raider replied, reaching for something on his belt. And I have a special containment unit just for electrical beings like you. Before Ben could react, the raider threw a sphere that exploded into a crackling energy net. Ben tried to phase through it as electricity, but the net adapted, catching and containing his energy form in painful compression. Specialized Nosodinian trap, the raider explained, approaching cautiously. Developed just for you. Ben struggled against the net, his electrical form unable to escape. They did their homework this time, he muttered. Indeed, came Azmuth's voice from somewhere nearby. Which means you must adapt. Consider your transformation's properties beyond mere electricity. Ben forced himself to focus through the pain. Nosodinian biology, what had Azmuth taught him about it? They weren't just living electricity, they could convert mass to energy and back. That's it. Ben concentrated, focusing not on escaping his energy but on manipulating his size. Nosodinians could shrink. His form compressed to barely the size of a light bulb, slipping through one of the net's energy gaps before the containment field could adjust. Free but tiny, Ben zipped behind a crate to avoid the raider's frantic shots. Where are you, Omnitrix bearer? The alien snarled, scanning the darkness. Ben returned to normal size behind him. Right here. As the raider spun around, Ben unleashed a massive electrical discharge directly into the alien's weapon. The overload caused a chain reaction through the raider's suit, shorting out its systems and sending the mercenary crashing to the floor. And that, Ben said, reverting to human form as the Omnitrix timed out, is how we do things on Earth. Azmuth emerged from his hiding spot. Acceptable implementation of xenobiological knowledge. Though your initial approach was unnecessarily direct. But effective, Ben countered with a grin. Effectiveness without efficiency is merely luck, Azmuth replied, examining the fallen raiders. And luck eventually runs out. Ben was about to respond when he heard the warehouse doors burst open. Grandpa Max and Gwen rushed in, ready for battle. Looks like we missed the fun, Gwen said, lowering her glowing hands. Nothing I couldn't handle. Ben dusted himself off. Just some fire-happy aliens trying to steal metal. Grandpa Max checked the raiders' equipment. Thermite tech. Haven't seen this since my plumber days. He turned to Azmuth. Think they were really working for Vilgax? Possible, but unlikely, Azmuth replied. Vilgax rarely employs intermediaries for high-priority targets. Ben picked up the spherical trap that had nearly captured him. They knew exactly what would work against Buzzshock, though. Someone's been studying my aliens. A concerning development, Azmuth agreed. The genetic stabilizer module becomes even more important now. Unpredictability will be your advantage. Speaking of which. Ben held up the module he'd brought. Field test time. Gwen rolled her eyes. Seriously? You just fought 3 alien mercenaries and you want to play with watch upgrades. It's not playing, it's science, Ben corrected with exaggerated dignity. Right, Azmuth? Applied xenotechnology, Azmuth clarified, taking the module. But yes, this is an appropriate opportunity. He gestured to Ben's wrist. The Omnitrix, if you please. Ben extended his arm. With practiced precision, Azmuth manipulated hidden controls on the device, causing the faceplate to rise and interior components to shift into accessibility mode. Whoa, Gwen breathed, watching the complex inner workings of the Omnitrix reveal themselves. It's like alien clockwork in there. Simplified analogy, but not entirely inaccurate, Azmuth commented as he carefully integrated the new module into the device. The Omnitrix contains over 3 million microcomponents working in quantum synchronization. And I helped build one of them, Ben added proudly. After 15 failed attempts, Azmuth reminded him, but there was a hint of approval in his voice. As Azmuth worked, Grandpa Max secured the fallen raiders with specialized restraints. I'll contact the plumbers to pick these guys up. We should get moving before any friends of theirs show up. Almost complete, Azmuth reported. Final calibration sequence initializing. The Omnitrix glowed bright green, then cycled through several colors before settling back to its normal state. Azmuth closed the access panel with a satisfied nod. Genetic stabilizer successfully integrated. You now have access to Transformation Set B, containing 10 additional DNA samples. He fixed Ben with a stern look. Use them wisely. These species have more complex biologies than your original set. Sweet. Ben immediately began scrolling through the dial, examining the new silhouettes. What's this one? It looks like a floating jellyfish. An amperi. Electrokinetic species with neuroshock abilities and limited telepathy. Azmuth hopped back to Ben's shoulder. One of the more challenging transformations to control. Challenge accepted. Ben grinned. Gwen checked her watch. Hate to break up alien biology class, but we should go. It's getting late, and I have that magic lesson with Charmcaster tomorrow. Still can't believe you're learning from someone who tried to destroy us, Ben muttered. Reformed villain, remember? Kind of like how you're working with the alien who created the watch that half the galaxy wants to steal. Gwen smirked. Besides, she knows spells that nobody on Earth has seen for centuries. Magic, Ben scoffed. Just undocumented alien technology. Actually, Azmuth interjected, what humans call magic often involves manipulating dimensional energies through verbal and somatic catalysts. It's quite fascinating from a quantum perspective. See? Gwen stuck her tongue out at Ben. Even Superbrain Alien thinks magic is real. Whatever. Ben started for the exit, then froze as the Omnitrix suddenly emitted a harsh beeping sound, its faceplate flashing red. That's new. Proximity alert, Azmuth said sharply. Something's, the warehouse roof exploded inward in a shower of metal and concrete. Through the dust and debris descended a massive figure, armored, imposing, with tentacles emerging from a respirator-masked face. Vilgax, Ben growled, instantly reaching for the Omnitrix. Benjamin Tennyson, the warlord's deep voice resonated through the warehouse. Our last encounter was interrupted. I've come to conclude our business. Grandpa Max pushed both kids behind him, weapon raised. You're not taking my grandson or the Omnitrix, Vilgax. Max Tennyson. Vilgax's eyes narrowed. The human plumber who has interfered with my conquests for decades. How fitting to find you protecting the child. I don't need protection, Ben declared, activating the Omnitrix. I've gotten a lot stronger since we last met. So I've observed. Vilgax raised his gauntlet arm, which began to glow with energy. Which is why I've prepared accordingly. Before Ben could transform, Vilgax fired. Not at Ben, but at the floor beneath Gwen's feet. The concrete exploded, sending her tumbling into a previously hidden shaft that hadn't been visible moments before. Gwen. Ben and Grandpa Max shouted simultaneously. A prepared battlefield, Vilgax explained coldly. This entire encounter was orchestrated, Tennyson. The raiders were merely bait. Ben slammed down on the Omnitrix, transforming into a blue, ghost-like alien with a single eye. Big chill. His voice was now a chilling whisper. Give her back, Vilgax. The necrophrygian form. Intangibility, flight, cryokinesis. Vilgax seemed unimpressed. Predictable choice, but ineffective. Ben launched himself forward, turning intangible to phase through Vilgax's counterattack. But as he passed through the warlord's armor, excruciating pain jolted through his ghostly form. Gah! Ben rematerialized, crashing into a stack of crates. Phase disruptor field, Vilgax explained. Specifically calibrated to necrophrygian frequency. As I said, I've prepared for you. Grandpa Max opened fire with his alien blaster, but the shots dissipated harmlessly against Vilgax's shields. The warlord swatted Max aside with a casual backhand, sending him crashing into a wall. Grandpa. Ben tried to rise, his big chill form smoking slightly from the phase disruption. Your companion has been secured by my drones, Vilgax stated. She will not be harmed, provided you surrender the Omnitrix within 24 Earth hours. He tossed a small device that landed at Ben's feet. This communicator contains coordinates for the exchange. Come alone, or she suffers. With that, Vilgax activated rockets in his armor and blasted back through the roof opening, disappearing into the night sky. No. Ben launched himself upward, ice flowing from his hands, but Vilgax was already gone. Gwen. He whispered. Azmuth, who had hidden during the confrontation, emerged from behind a fallen beam. This was a calculated trap. Vilgax monitored your patterns and exploited your predictability. Not helping, Azmuth. Ben snapped, reverting to human form. He rushed to Grandpa Max, helping him sit up. Are you okay? Max winced, holding his side. I'll be fine. But Gwen. We'll get her back, Ben promised, his expression hardening. Whatever it takes. A direct confrontation is precisely what Vilgax wants, Azmuth warned. He studied your transformations and prepared countermeasures for each. Then I'll use the new aliens, Ben replied, examining the communicator Vilgax had left. He won't be ready for those. Even so, the probability of success against Vilgax's resources is minimal. Azmuth paced along the edge of the hidden shaft. This requires strategy, not merely brute force. Ben stared at the Omnitrix, an idea forming. What if we gave him what he wants? A modified version, anyway. Azmuth raised an eyebrow. Explain. You've been teaching me about Omnitrix architecture, right? What if we created a convincing replica, one that looks real enough to fool Vilgax during the exchange? Ben's eyes lit up. Just long enough for me to find and rescue Gwen. Interesting, Azmuth mused. Creating a functional facsimile would require significant technological expertise. Then it's a good thing I have the greatest inventor in 5 galaxies as my teacher, Ben said. Azmuth actually smiled slightly. Indeed. Though we would need specialized components not readily available on Earth. I might know someone who can help, Grandpa Max said, wincing as he stood. Someone with access to technology that could work. But you're not going to like it, Ben. The juvenile detention center looked like any other concrete government building from the outside, but Ben knew it housed specialized containments for powered individuals. The guards eyed him suspiciously as Grandpa Max flashed his plumber badge. We're here to see Kevin Levin, Max stated. Official business. The energy absorber. The guard frowned. He's in maximum security. Too dangerous for visitors. Max leaned closer. Plumber authorization code Sigma 6 Delta 3. The guard's eyes widened slightly before he nodded. Follow me. As they walked through security checkpoints, Ben whispered, Are you sure about this? Kevin's bad news. Last time we fought, he nearly fried half of New York's power grid. Kevin Levin possesses a unique ability to absorb and manipulate energy, Azmuth commented from his hiding place in Ben's pocket. His connection to multiple dimensional frequencies makes him invaluable for our purposes. Still doesn't make him trustworthy, Ben muttered. They were led to a specialized containment cell with energy-dampening walls. Through the observation window, Ben saw a dark-haired teenager sitting on a metal bench, looking bored as he tossed a rubber ball against the wall. Kevin Levin, you have visitors, the guard announced through an intercom. Kevin caught the ball and looked up, his expression shifting from surprise to hostility when he saw Ben. Tennyson. What are you doing here? Come to gloat. We need your help, Ben replied bluntly. Kevin laughed. That's rich. Hero boy needs the villain's help. What's wrong, Omnitrix on the fritz? My cousin's been kidnapped by an alien warlord, Ben said, all humor gone from his voice. He wants the Omnitrix in exchange for her life. Kevin's amusement faded. And you're here because you understand energy signatures better than anyone else on Earth, Grandpa Max explained. We need to create a convincing replica of the Omnitrix, something that will read as genuine to advanced scanning technology. Specifically, we require someone who can manipulate quantum energy fields to mimic the Omnitrix's unique signature, came Azmuth's voice as he climbed out of Ben's pocket and stood on the ledge by the window. Kevin's eyes widened. What is that? I am Azmuth of the Galvan, creator of the Omnitrix, Azmuth introduced himself. And you, Kevin Levin, possess an ability that defies conventional energy physics, an ability we need. Kevin approached the window, suddenly interested. Let me get this straight. You want me to help create a fake version of the most powerful device in the universe so you can trick some alien kidnapper? A slow grin spread across his face. What's in it for me? Reduced sentence, for starters, Grandpa Max replied. I have pull with certain authorities. And, Azmuth added, I could potentially help you understand and control your abilities. Your energy absorption isn't a human mutation as Earth scientists believe, it's connected to Osmosian heritage in your genetic lineage. Osmosian? Kevin's cocky demeanor faltered. What's that? An explanation for another time, Azmuth said. Will you assist us? Kevin considered for a moment, then shrugged. Sure, why not? Beat sitting in this cell counting ceiling tiles. He smirked at Ben. Besides, I kinda want to see Tennyson beg for my help. I'm not begging, Ben growled. This is about saving Gwen. Your cousin, right? The one with the magic powers. Kevin's expression softened slightly. Fine. Get me out of here, and I'll help you build your fake watch. Back at the modified rust bucket, Ben spread the components they'd gathered across the workbench. Kevin, wearing a power-dampening bracelet as a condition of his release, examined the materials with genuine interest. This is some seriously advanced tech, he commented, picking up what looked like a circuit board but was actually a quantum processor. Where'd you get this stuff? Plumber storage, Grandpa Max replied, laying out schematics. Collected from various encounters over the years. Kevin shot him a suspicious look. You're not a normal grandpa, are you? Not even close, Ben answered for him. Now focus. We have less than 20 hours before the exchange. Azmuth projected a holographic model of the Omnitrix from a small device. The external appearance is relatively simple to replicate. The challenge lies in mimicking the energy signature that makes the Omnitrix unique. That's where I come in, Kevin said, studying the hologram. I can absorb and replicate energy patterns. If I can get a read on the real Omnitrix. Absolutely not, Azmuth cut him off. Direct contact between your abilities and the Omnitrix could have catastrophic consequences. Then how am I supposed to help? Kevin demanded. Ben had been unusually quiet, staring at the components while deep in thought. What if we used the secondary power coupling I built last month? The one that taps into the Omnitrix's overflow energy without direct access. Azmuth turned to him with a hint of surprise. The quantum siphon? That could work, if properly calibrated. I've been practicing my calibrations, Ben reminded him, already reaching for tools. Kevin watched with growing confusion as Ben began assembling components with surprising skill. Since when are you a tech genius, Tennyson? Last I knew, you could barely operate a microwave without blowing it up. 6 months of alien engineering lessons from the smartest being in the universe, Ben replied without looking up. You pick things up. Grandpa Max smiled proudly. Ben's become quite the student under Azmuth's tutelage. Adequacy has been achieved in certain areas, Azmuth qualified, but his tone lacked its usual criticism. For the next several hours, they worked together on the fake Omnitrix. Ben handled the internal components with growing confidence, while Kevin provided insights on energy manipulation that even Azmuth found valuable. Despite their history, the two boys developed an unexpected working rhythm. Hand me the flux regulator, Ben said, holding out his hand without looking up. Kevin placed the correct component in his palm without hesitation. The power curve is still off. It'll spike under any serious scan. Not if we implement a recursive feedback loop. Ben twisted 2 wires together. Azmuth showed me how to mask energy signatures by feeding scanner readings back into themselves. Smart, Kevin admitted grudgingly. But it'll only buy you a few minutes at most. That's all I need. Ben connected the final piece, and the replica Omnitrix glowed green, looking remarkably similar to the real one. Just long enough to find Gwen and get her out while Vilgax is distracted. Azmuth examined their work with critical eyes. The craftsmanship is crude by Galvan standards, but remarkably effective given the materials available. He glanced at Kevin. Your understanding of energy dynamics is intuitive in ways that defy conventional science. Kevin shrugged, trying to hide his pleasure at the compliment. Just always been able to feel how energy wants to flow. A natural talent enhanced by your heritage, Azmuth noted. The Osmosians were energy manipulators of considerable skill before their civilization collapsed. Okay, seriously, what are Osmosians? Kevin demanded. You keep hinting at this heritage thing. A species with the ability to absorb matter and energy, Azmuth explained. Your human DNA is dominant, but the Osmosian traits manifest in your abilities. Kevin stared at his hands. So I'm part alien. That's why I can do what I do. Precisely. Though your human physiology makes controlling the absorption process more difficult. Azmuth studied him thoughtfully. With proper training, you could develop remarkable control. Speaking of control, Grandpa Max interjected, the fake Omnitrix is only part of our plan. We still need a way to locate Gwen and extract her while Vilgax is distracted. Ben activated the real Omnitrix, cycling through his aliens. I'm thinking Wildmutt for tracking, then maybe one of the new aliens for the actual rescue. Vilgax will expect you to use your Vulpamencer form for tracking, Azmuth pointed out. Its sensory capabilities are well documented. What about the XLR-8? Kevin suggested. Fast enough to search a large area quickly. Also predictable, Ben frowned. We need something Vilgax won't expect. He stopped on an unfamiliar silhouette, a slender, almost spectral figure. What's this one? Ectoneurite DNA. An unusual sample in the codon stream, their species typically doesn't allow genetic cataloging. Azmuth's expression grew serious. Powerful, but potentially dangerous to the user's psyche. The consciousness of this particular specimen is especially assertive. Ben's eyes lit up. Ghost powers? That sounds perfect for sneaking in. It's not that simple, Azmuth warned. This transformation, I'll be careful, Ben promised, already reaching for the dial. I just need to test it first, make sure I can control it. Ben, wait, Grandpa Max started, but Ben had already activated the Omnitrix. Green light engulfed him as his body transformed. His skin turned pale gray, almost white, with black crack-like lines appearing across it. A single violet eye opened in the center of his face, and ghostly tentacles emerged from his lower body. Whoa! Ben's voice had an echoing, unsettling quality. This feels different. Ghost Freak, Azmuth named the form, concern evident in his voice. Benjamin, you must maintain mental discipline in this form. The ectoneurite consciousness, I feel fine, Ben insisted, examining his new spectral hands. A little weird, but definitely in control. He turned invisible, then reappeared. See? Perfect for infiltration. Kevin whistled. Creepy, but effective. You could phase right through Vilgax's defenses with that. Exactly. Ben floated a few inches above the floor. Vilgax won't expect this form since I've never used it before. There's a reason for that, Azmuth muttered, but Ben was already testing his new powers, phasing through walls and possessing objects. Grandpa Max watched with growing concern. Azmuth, is this form safe for him? The ectoneurite DNA in the Omnitrix is complicated, Azmuth admitted quietly. It belongs to a particularly powerful individual named Zskar, who attempted to insert his own consciousness into the sample. I thought I had purged the sentient elements, but... But what? Max pressed. The longer Ben remains in this form, the greater the risk of the original consciousness asserting itself. Azmuth watched as Ben phased through the ceiling and back. He must limit transformation time and maintain strong mental focus. Ben floated back down, clearly enjoying his new powers. This is perfect. Vilgax won't know what hit him. Ben, Grandpa Max said firmly, Azmuth says this form could be dangerous. You need to change back and we'll find another option. Dangerous how? Ben challenged. I've got total control. For now, Azmuth stated. But ectoneurite consciousness can be invasive. The original donor of this DNA was particularly malevolent. Ben waved a ghostly hand dismissively. I've handled way worse. Besides, I'll only use it for the infiltration part, then switch to something else for the actual rescue. Before anyone could argue further, the Omnitrix communicator beeped. Ben reverted to human form and picked it up. Vilgax's face appeared on the small screen. Tennyson. 18 hours remain until our exchange. To motivate your punctuality. The image shifted to show Gwen, contained in an energy field aboard what appeared to be Vilgax's ship. She looked unharmed but frightened. Ben. Don't give him the Omnitrix. Her warning was cut short as the feed terminated. Gwen. Ben clutched the communicator tightly. He's moved up the timetable. We need to finish this now. The replica is functional, if crude, Azmuth confirmed. But our extraction plan requires refinement. Kevin had been studying the brief glimpse of Vilgax's ship. I recognized the containment field. It's an entropy cell, designed to neutralize energy-based powers. He glanced at Ben. Your cousin's magic won't work inside it. How do you know that? Ben asked suspiciously. I've been in one, Kevin replied flatly. During my first arrest. Nothing works inside, no powers, no tech, nothing. Then we'll need to deactivate it from the outside, Grandpa Max said. I have some experience with alien containment systems from my plumber days. I still say Ghost Freak is our best infiltration option, Ben insisted. Ectoneurite phasing can bypass most security systems. Azmuth looked troubled but nodded reluctantly. With strict time limits and mental discipline, perhaps. But you must switch forms immediately after locating the girl. Got it. Ben glanced at Kevin. You coming with us? Kevin raised an eyebrow. To fight an alien warlord with a vendetta against you? Sounds like suicide. He paused, then grinned. Yeah, I'm in. Beats going back to that cell. Grandpa Max placed a hand on Kevin's shoulder. This doesn't mean your sentence is erased. But it's a start toward redemption. Whatever helps you sleep at night, old man, Kevin shrugged, but there was less edge to his voice than before. I just want to see some action. Ben extended his hand. Temporary truce. Kevin hesitated, then clasped it firmly. Temporary. The coordinates Vilgax provided led them to an abandoned quarry miles outside town. The rust bucket crawled along the access road, headlights illuminating the dusty terrain. No sign of Vilgax's ship, Grandpa Max noted, scanning the area with a plumber device. But I'm detecting energy readings below ground. Underground base, Kevin suggested. Classic villain move. Ben checked the replica Omnitrix strapped to his left wrist. The real one remained hidden under his sleeve on his right arm. Everyone clear on the plan? I go in with the fake, distract Vilgax while you guys find and extract Gwen. And you stay in any form for no more than 10 minutes, Azmuth added from his perch on the dashboard. Particularly the ectoneurite. Got it, got it. Ben rolled his eyes. 10 minutes max as Ghost Freak. Switch to something else after finding Gwen. Don't let the ghostly DNA take over my brain. I've been paying attention. Have you? Azmuth's tone was deadly serious. Because Zskar is not a consciousness to take lightly, Benjamin. He was a conqueror who terrorized entire systems. And now he's just DNA in the Omnitrix, Ben countered. DNA that I control. Kevin snorted. This ghost alien sounds pretty hardcore. Maybe you should listen to the little gray dude, Tennyson. I know what I'm doing, Ben insisted. Let's just focus on saving Gwen. The rust bucket parked behind a large rock formation, concealing it from view of the quarry. As they exited, a rumbling sound drew their attention skyward. A massive ship decloaked directly above the quarry, its angular form bristling with weapons. A beam of light shot down, and Vilgax materialized in the center of the open space. Show time, Ben muttered, adjusting the fake Omnitrix. Remember, wait for my signal before moving in. Ben, Grandpa Max placed a hand on his shoulder. Be careful. Vilgax is dangerous even when you think you have the upper hand. I know. Ben's expression hardened. But so am I. He walked out into the open, approaching Vilgax with deliberate confidence. The alien warlord stood like a statue, arms crossed, tentacles shifting slightly around his respirator. Tennyson, Vilgax acknowledged. You've arrived ahead of schedule. Where's my cousin? Ben demanded, stopping 20 feet away. Secure aboard my ship. Vilgax's red eyes narrowed. The Omnitrix, if you please. Ben held up his left arm, displaying the replica. Release Gwen first. You are not in a position to make demands. Vilgax tapped a control on his gauntlet, and a holographic screen appeared showing Gwen in her cell. She remains unharmed, as promised. The Omnitrix, now. How do I know that's a live feed? Ben challenged. Show me something that proves it's happening now. Vilgax's eyes narrowed, but he spoke into his gauntlet. Prisoner, state the time since your capture. On screen, Gwen glared defiantly. About 14 hours, squid face. Ben, don't do it. He's going to. The audio cut off, but the visual remained. Satisfied? Vilgax extended his hand. The Omnitrix. Final warning. Ben acted as if struggling with the decision, then slowly approached. Fine. But I'm removing it myself. He began manipulating the replica's controls, making a show of disengaging non-existent security protocols. While Vilgax's attention was focused on the fake device, Ben quietly activated the real Omnitrix under his sleeve, selecting the ectoneurite form. The moment he handed over the replica, he would transform and phase through the ground to infiltrate the ship. The release sequence is complete, Ben announced, holding out his left arm. It's all yours. Vilgax reached for the device, his massive hand engulfing Ben's forearm. Just as his fingers closed around the replica, Ben activated the real Omnitrix. Nothing happened. Ben's eyes widened in panic. He tried again, pressing harder on the activation control, but the Omnitrix remained inert. Vilgax examined the device in his hand, then crushed it effortlessly. A replica. Crude, but surprisingly convincing. His eyes flashed with anger. Did you truly believe I would not scan for the authentic energy signature? Worth a shot, Ben replied, trying to keep his voice steady while frantically trying to determine why the Omnitrix wasn't working. Indeed. Vilgax reached into his armor and produced a small spherical device. And now for the real Omnitrix. He activated the sphere, which emitted a purple pulse of energy. Ben felt the Omnitrix on his right arm grow hot, then emerge from under his sleeve, drawn toward Vilgax like metal to a magnet. Quantum attractor, Vilgax explained with smug satisfaction. Specifically calibrated to the Omnitrix's unique energy frequency. Your deception was anticipated, Benjamin Tennyson. The Omnitrix strained against Ben's wrist, pulling him forward painfully. Azmuth never mentioned that was possible, he growled through clenched teeth. Azmuth believes his creation to be perfect, beyond external control. Vilgax increased the attractor's power. A flaw I've exploited extensively in preparation for this moment. Ben struggled against the pull, but found himself being inexorably drawn toward Vilgax. Behind a nearby ridge, Kevin watched with growing concern. This isn't going according to plan, he muttered to Grandpa Max, the Omnitrix isn't working, and Vilgax has some kind of tractor beam on it. Quantum attractor, Azmuth corrected grimly. A theoretical technology one considered impossible to stabilize. Vilgax has surpassed my expectations. So what's plan B? Kevin demanded. Because right now, Ben's about to lose the watch and Gwen's still captured. Grandpa Max checked his weapon. We move in. Create a distraction so Ben can break free. Wait. Azmuth held up a tiny hand. The Omnitrix's failsafes should be activating. Unless. His eyes widened. The genetic stabilizer module. It must have created a vulnerability in the defense systems. In English, please. Kevin growled. Ben's upgrade made the Omnitrix susceptible to Vilgax's technology, Max translated. We need to disrupt that attractor device. Kevin's eyes lit up with understanding. Disruption is my specialty. He removed the power-dampening bracelet. Time to see what this Osmosian heritage can really do. Before Max could stop him, Kevin placed his hand on a nearby power junction box connected to the quarry's abandoned equipment. Blue energy flowed into his body as he absorbed the electricity. His skin took on a metallic sheen as he then absorbed the metal of the box itself. Energy and armor, Kevin grinned, his body now covered in steel plating with electricity crackling between the plates. Let's crash this party. Meanwhile, Ben had been dragged to within arm's reach of Vilgax. The warlord grabbed him by the throat, lifting him off the ground. At last, Vilgax said, examining the Omnitrix on Ben's wrist. The power of the Omnitrix will be mine. Not, today, calamari face, Ben choked out, still fighting. Your defiance is pointless. Vilgax began manipulating the Omnitrix, attempting to remove it. Once I understand its secrets, I will. A massive bolt of electricity struck Vilgax from behind, disrupting his hold and the quantum attractor simultaneously. Ben dropped to the ground, gasping for air as Vilgax staggered forward. Hey, tentacle head. Kevin called, electricity arcing between his metal-covered hands. Pick on someone with actual powers. Vilgax spun around, eyes narrowing at the new threat. The Osmosian hybrid. Another variable I accounted for. Wait, you knew about me too. Kevin faltered momentarily. Your incarceration records were quite informative. Vilgax raised his gauntlet. As were the containment protocols designed for your abilities. A blast from the gauntlet struck Kevin, encasing him in a field of energy that seemed to drain his absorbed powers. The metal covering melted away from his skin as he dropped to his knees. Energy dampening field, Vilgax explained. Similar to your prison restraints, but far more efficient. Kevin. Ben shouted, scrambling to his feet. He checked the Omnitrix, which was glowing green again now that the attractor was disrupted. Hang on. He activated the device, scrolling quickly through his available forms. With the element of surprise lost, he needed raw power. The dial stopped on a massive, four-armed silhouette, and Ben slammed it down. Forearms, he shouted as his body grew, muscles expanding and a second pair of arms emerging beneath the first. His skin turned deep red, and his head sprouted an extra pair of eyes. The Tetraman form. Predictable. Vilgax turned back to face him. But inadequate. Ben charged forward, all four fists raised. Let's see about that. His first punch connected with satisfying force, actually pushing Vilgax back several feet. The warlord grunted in surprise. "You've improved your combat techniques," Vilgax noted, shifting into a defensive stance. "But strength alone won't save your cousin." "Maybe not," Ben replied, continuing his assault with a barrage of coordinated punches. "But it'll feel really good to smash your face in." While they fought, Grandpa Max helped Kevin to his feet. "You okay, son?" "Been better," Kevin winced, his absorbed powers gone. "That guy's prepared for everything." "Not everything," Azmuth said from Max's shoulder. "The ship's security will be focused externally while Vilgax engages Ben. This presents an infiltration opportunity." "But Ben has the Omnitrix," Kevin pointed out. "How do we get aboard?" Max pulled out a small device. "Old plumber trick. Short-range teleporter. It can lock onto the ship's coordinates, but only works for 2 at most." "Then you and Kevin go," Azmuth decided. "Find the girl while Ben keeps Vilgax occupied. I'll remain to monitor the Omnitrix's status." Kevin looked at the ongoing battle, where Ben was holding his own against Vilgax but not gaining any clear advantage. "What about Tennyson?" "Ben is resourceful," Max said, though worry creased his face. "And he's fought Vilgax before. Our priority is Gwen." Kevin nodded reluctantly. "Let's do it." Max activated the teleporter, and both disappeared in a flash of blue light, rematerializing in a corridor aboard Vilgax's ship. "Whoa," Kevin whispered, looking around at the alien technology. "This is way more advanced than anything I've seen before. Chimera Sway generous technology, modified with stolen components from a dozen worlds," Max explained, checking a scanner. "I'm picking up a human life sign 2 decks below us. That must be Gwen." "Great, but how do we get there without setting off alarms?" Kevin asked. Max grinned. "Who says we haven't already?" He pulled out a small explosive charge and attached it to a nearby wall panel. Sometimes the best infiltration is a loud distraction. Down in the quarry, Ben and Vilgax continued their battle. Despite his enhanced Tetraman strength, Ben found himself gradually giving ground. Vilgax's combat experience and specialized armor more than compensated for Ben's raw power. "You fight well for a child," Vilgax commented, blocking a 4-armed grapple attempt. "But you lack the killer instinct necessary for true victory." "I don't need to kill you," Ben retorted, breaking free and landing a solid punch to Vilgax's midsection. "Just keep you busy." Vilgax's eyes narrowed. "Busy? While what occurs elsewhere?" Realization dawned in his expression. "The ship. You've sent others to retrieve the girl." He tapped his gauntlet, barking orders in an alien language. Immediately, the ship above began powering up weapon systems, targeting the area around them. "Too late," Vilgax smiled coldly. "My security systems have already detected the intruders. Your grandfather and the Osmosian boy will be captured, or eliminated." Ben's 4 eyes widened in alarm. "Leave them out of this. Your fight is with me." "My objective is the Omnitrix," Vilgax corrected. "All else is collateral." The Omnitrix symbol on Ben's chest began to flash red, indicating an imminent timeout. Vilgax noticed and pressed his advantage, landing a powerful blow that sent Ben crashing into a rock wall. "Your time is running out," quite literally, the warlord observed. Ben struggled to his feet, knowing he had only moments before reverting to human form. He needed a new strategy, fast. "Azmuth," he called out. "A little help here." The Galvan emerged from his hiding place, approaching the battlefield with remarkable calm given the circumstances. "The stabilizer module," Azmuth called up to him. "Access code Primus Alpha 79. Ben immediately understood. He pressed the Omnitrix symbol on his chest, calling out, "Primus Alpha 79. The symbol reconfigured, glowing bright blue instead of red. The timeout warning ceased, and Ben felt a surge of new energy through his Tetraman form. "What is this?" Vilgax demanded, momentarily surprised by the development. Emergency power bypass, Azmuth explained smugly. A feature I neglected to document in any database you might have accessed. Ben grinned with all four eyes. Translation, second wind. He charged forward with renewed strength, catching Vilgax off guard. Aboard the ship, Max and Kevin navigated the corridors, following the scanner's guidance. Alarms blared around them as the ship's security systems detected their presence. So much for the element of surprise, Kevin commented, ducking as a laser turret emerged from the ceiling and fired at them. Sometimes chaos works in your favor, Max replied, shooting the turret with his plumber weapon. Most of the crew will be responding to the explosion we set, not looking for us specifically. They reached a sealed door marked with alien symbols. Max's scanner indicated Gwen was just beyond it. This is it, he confirmed. But the lock is DNA-coded. We need Vilgax's genetic signature to open it. Kevin examined the control panel. Or we could just break it. He looked around, spotting a piece of damaged wall plating. Pulling it free, he pressed it against his palm, absorbing the metal's properties once again. Stand back. With his arm transformed into living metal, Kevin smashed the control panel. Sparks flew as the system short-circuited, and the door slid partially open, just enough for them to squeeze through. Inside, they found Gwen suspended in a glowing energy field. She looked up in surprise as they entered. Grandpa? Kevin Levin. Her eyes narrowed at Kevin. What's he doing here? Saving you, apparently, Kevin replied with a smirk. You're welcome. Kevin's helping us, Max explained quickly, examining the containment field controls. Ben's keeping Vilgax busy down on Earth. Gwen's expression shifted to concern. Grandpa, it's a trap. Vilgax doesn't just want the Omnitrix, he's after Azmuth too. He found out Azmuth has been training Ben. Makes sense, Kevin noted. Get the watch and its maker in one go. Max frowned as he worked on the control panel. This system is locked with redundant security protocols. I can't disable it remotely. Let me try. Kevin placed his metal hand on the control interface, concentrating. Maybe I can absorb enough of the energy pattern to disrupt it. That's way too dangerous, Gwen warned. This containment field is specifically designed to trap energy-based lifeforms. It could corrupt your absorption abilities permanently. Kevin hesitated, then set his jaw determinedly. Got a better idea? Because right now, it's this or wait for Vilgax to come back and find us. Before either could respond, the ship shuddered violently around them. What was that? Kevin asked, grabbing the wall for support. Max checked a display on his plumber device. Weapons fire from the surface. Ben and Vilgax's battle must have escalated. Down in the quarry, the battle had indeed intensified. Ben, still in his enhanced four-arms form, had managed to damage Vilgax's armor in several places. The warlord, growing frustrated, had called down weapons fire from his ship to keep Ben on the defensive. You cannot win this, Tennyson. Vilgax shouted as energy blasts tore up the ground around them. Even now, my drones are converging on your allies aboard my vessel. Then I need to end this quickly, Ben replied, dodging another blast. He glanced at Azmuth, who had taken cover nearby. Time for Plan C. There is no Plan C. Azmuth called back. There is now, Ben grinned. He slapped the Omnitrix symbol on his chest again, but this time with a specific command in mind. Omnitrix, access master control. The symbol spun rapidly, then expanded into a full holographic interface. A mechanical voice responded, master control unlocked. Full spectrum access granted. What? Vilgax's eyes widened in genuine alarm. That function requires direct Galvan authorization. Which he has, Azmuth stated, emerging from his cover. As my apprentice, Benjamin Tennyson has earned limited master control privileges. A recent addition to his training that I implemented, precisely for contingencies like this. Ben concentrated, and the Omnitrix responded instantly. Without touching the dial, his forearm's form shifted in a flash of green light, transforming into the spectral ghost freak. Surprise, Ben's eerie voice echoed as he turned intangible, avoiding Vilgax's desperate grab. No. Vilgax activated a device on his gauntlet, generating an energy field around himself. Ectoneurite containment shield. You cannot phase through this, Tennyson. Wasn't planning to, Ben replied, shooting upward toward the ship instead. I'm going to get my cousin. As he flew, Ben felt a strange sensation, a voice whispering at the edges of his consciousness, growing louder as he maintained the ghost freak form. Freedom. So close. The voice hissed. Let me help you save the girl. Ben shook his spectral head. No thanks, creepy voice in my head. I've got this. He phased through the hull of Vilgax's ship, finding himself in a darkened corridor. The whispers grew more insistent as he navigated deeper into the vessel. Let me show you the way, the voice urged. I know this ship. I know all ships. I have existed for millennia. Azmuth warned me about you, Ben muttered, fighting to maintain control. You're ZS Scare, the original Ectoneurite. A chilling laugh echoed through his mind. Very good, child. Now let me guide you. Together we can save your cousin. Ben felt his right arm move without his permission, pointing down a specific corridor. He fought the control, but found the Ectoneurite consciousness growing stronger the longer he remained transformed. Stop it. Ben focused his will, reasserting dominance over the form. This is my body. Temporarily, the voice hissed. But soon. Forcing the voice to the back of his mind, Ben concentrated on finding Gwen. He extended his spectral senses, searching for human life signs amid the alien technology. Meanwhile, Max and Kevin continued struggling with Gwen's containment field. Kevin had absorbed enough of the control panel's material to transform both arms into the ship's metallic components, but still couldn't override the security. There has to be a master control somewhere, Max muttered, checking his scanner again. Probably on the bridge. We don't have time to find it, Kevin argued. He pressed his hands against the energy field itself. I'm going to try something. Kevin, don't. Gwen warned. That field will, I know what I'm doing, Kevin interrupted, though his expression suggested otherwise. Probably. He focused his absorption abilities, not on the field's energy itself, but on its frequency pattern. It was a technique he developed in juvenile detention, absorbing the properties of energy without taking in the energy itself. Like learning a song without recording it. To everyone's surprise, the field began to fluctuate where his hands touched it. Kevin's face contorted with effort as his body glowed with sympathetic energy. It's working. He ground out through clenched teeth. Almost, got it. Just as the field began to collapse, a ghostly form phased through the ceiling. Ben in his ghost freak form materialized beside them. Guys! I found you, he exclaimed, his single eye widening at the sight of Kevin manipulating the containment field. Whoa, what's he doing? Saving your cousin, Kevin snapped, concentration wavering. Little help here. Ben extended a spectral hand toward the field, instinctively knowing how to disrupt its frequency. Together, he and Kevin created enough interference to cause the entire system to overload. The field collapsed, and Gwen dropped to the floor, Max catching her before she fell. Gwen. Are you okay? Ben asked, his ghostly form hovering anxiously. I'm fine, she assured him, though she looked pale and tired. But Ben, your form. Azmuth said Ghost Freak was dangerous. I've got it under control, Ben insisted, though the whispers in his mind had grown louder. We need to get out of here. Vilgax is right behind me. Kevin, recovering from the energy manipulation, looked at Ben's ghostly form with suspicion. You don't sound right, Tennyson. Your voice is different. It's just the transformation, Ben dismissed, though he could feel Zia's scare pushing against his consciousness more forcefully now. Grandpa, the teleporter. Max reached for the device, but before he could activate it, the ship rocked violently again. Emergency lights flashed as a computerized voice announced in an alien language. What's it saying? Gwen asked. Self-destruct sequence initiated, Max translated grimly. Vilgax must have activated it remotely when he realized we'd succeeded. How long do we have? Kevin demanded. 2 minutes, Max checked his plumber device. And the teleporter's range isn't enough to get us to the surface from this altitude. Ben fought against the growing influence of Zia's scare, trying to think clearly. I can get us out. Ghost Freak can phase through the ship, but I can't carry everyone at once. And we can't leave anyone behind, Gwen stated firmly. What about the escape pods? Kevin suggested. A ship this size must have them. Max nodded. 2 corridors down, according to the schematics. But we'll never reach them in time on foot. Then I'll clear the path, Ben decided. He concentrated, and in a flash of green light, transformed from Ghost Freak to XLR-8. Everyone grab on. The relief of escaping Zia Scare's influence was palpable, but Ben had no time to dwell on it. With his family and Kevin holding tight, he raced through the ship at incredible speed, dodging falling debris and security drones. They reached the escape pod bay with 30 seconds to spare. Max quickly overrode the launch protocols while Ben returned to human form, exhausted from the rapid transformations. Everyone in, now. Max shouted as the pod door opened. They piled in, and Max initiated the launch sequence. The pod ejected from the ship just as explosions began tearing through its hull. They watched through the viewport as Vilgax's massive vessel broke apart in a spectacular series of detonations. Whoa, Kevin breathed, genuinely impressed. That's one way to end a kidnapping. Vilgax survived, Ben said with certainty. He always does. We'll worry about him later, Grandpa Max said, piloting the pod toward the surface. Right now, let's just be grateful we all made it out. Gwen squeezed Ben's hand. Thanks for coming for me. Always, Ben replied with a tired smile. Besides, who else would I annoy if something happened to you? Speaking of annoying, Gwen glanced at Kevin. What's his deal? Last I knew, he was trying to absorb your Omnitrix and destroy you. Kevin shrugged. People change. Not that much, Gwen retorted skeptically. Kevin helped build the fake Omnitrix, Ben explained. And he just helped save you. Maybe cut him some slack. Gwen studied Kevin with narrowed eyes. We'll see. One good deed doesn't erase attempting to blow up a train station. Fair enough, Kevin conceded with a smirk. The escape pod touched down in the quarry, not far from where Ben had fought Vilgax. As they exited, they found Azmuth waiting beside the rust bucket, his expression a mix of relief and disapproval. Cutting it rather close, wouldn't you say, the Galvan commented dryly. Sorry about using master control without permission, Ben said, approaching his mentor. But it was kind of an emergency. Your reasoning was sound, if impulsive. Azmuth examined the Omnitrix on Ben's wrist. However, your extended use of the ectoneurite form is concerning. Did you experience any unusual phenomena while transformed? Ben hesitated, then nodded. Voices. Or one voice, really. Zia's Scare, right? The original DNA donor. Indeed. Azmuth looked troubled. His consciousness is more resilient than I anticipated. We'll need to recalibrate the Omnitrix to suppress his influence more effectively. Wait, there are actual personalities inside the Omnitrix? Kevin asked, joining them. Not typically, Azmuth explained. The Omnitrix contains genetic code, not consciousness. Ectoneurites are the exception, their DNA inherently carries aspects of their mental patterns. And this ZS scare dude is bad news? Kevin pressed. One of the most malevolent entities in the known universe, Azmuth confirmed. A conqueror and necromancer of considerable power. Ben shuddered, remembering the alien consciousness pushing against his own. Yeah, let's definitely fix that. I don't need a supervillain living in my watch. A wise conclusion, Azmuth agreed. Though I'm curious how you broke free of master control to change forms. Few beings could resist ZS Scare's influence once it takes hold. Ben shrugged. I just thought about what was important, saving Gwen and getting everyone out safely. Focusing on that made it easier to push him back. Azmuth studied Ben with new interest. Curious. Perhaps your human emotional connections provide a psychological anchor that alien consciousnesses cannot easily overcome. You mean caring about his family makes Ben stronger against possession? Gwen asked, joining the conversation. A simplification, but essentially correct. Azmuth nodded thoughtfully. A variable I had not fully considered in my apprenticeship calculations. Grandpa Max completed his check of the rust bucket systems and rejoined the group. Everything's operational. We should move before any of Vilgax's allies come looking for him. Agreed. Azmuth hopped onto Ben's shoulder. We have much to discuss regarding today's events, particularly the vulnerabilities exposed in the Omnitrix's security systems. As they boarded the rust bucket, Kevin hung back awkwardly. So, I guess this is where I go back to juvie, huh? Grandpa Max considered him for a moment. You helped save my granddaughter today. That counts for something. Plus, he's got that cool Osmosian heritage Azmuth mentioned, Ben added. Maybe he could use some training too. Perhaps, Azmuth mused, studying Kevin. Your energy manipulation abilities are unusually developed for someone with diluted Osmosian genetics. With proper guidance, you could harness them without the instability that led to your previous, criminal activities. Kevin tried to look disinterested, but couldn't quite hide his curiosity. What kind of guidance? The kind that keeps you out of detention facilities, Max answered. Conditional on good behavior and regular check-ins with me. And what exactly would I be doing instead? Kevin pressed. Ben grinned. How do you feel about being part of a team? 2 weeks later, Ben hunched over a workbench in the modified rust bucket, making microscopic adjustments to the Omnitrix's internal components while Azmuth supervised. The device was in maintenance mode, its faceplate raised to expose the complex mechanisms within. Careful with the genetic stabilizer, Azmuth cautioned. After Vilgax's quantum attractor, we need to reinforce the shield harmonics. I know. Ben adjusted a tiny component with surprisingly steady hands. Quantum field integrity at 97% and rising. Not bad for human reflexes, right? Azmuth made a non-committal sound, but Ben caught the hint of approval in his mentor's expression. Outside, Kevin and Gwen were engaged in their own training session. Kevin practiced absorbing and manipulating different materials while Gwen worked on focusing her magical energies into precise shields and platforms. Your control's improving, Gwen noted as Kevin successfully maintained a partial stone transformation on just his right arm while keeping his left arm metallic. Yeah, well, turns out I was doing it all wrong before, Kevin admitted. Trying to absorb too much at once instead of focusing on maintaining specific properties. That's what Azmuth said would happen. Gwen created a magical platform beneath her feet, rising into the air. The human part of your biology needs time to adjust to the Osmosian absorption abilities. Kevin watched her ascend with barely disguised admiration. Your magic stuff is getting pretty impressive too. It's not just magic stuff, Gwen corrected, though she smiled slightly. It's mana manipulation based on fundamental cosmic energies. Right, energy manipulation, Kevin grinned. Something we have in common. Inside the RV, Ben finally closed the Omnitrix access panel, the device recalibrating with a soft beep. There. Security protocols upgraded, ZS Scare's DNA properly contained, and I even managed to optimize the power coupling like you suggested. The workmanship is acceptable, Azmuth conceded, examining Ben's adjustments. Your technical abilities have progressed significantly in 6 months. I've had a good teacher, Ben replied, only partly joking. Even if he is impossible to please. Excellence is not about pleasing others, Benjamin. It's about meeting the standards one sets for oneself. Azmuth hopped from the workbench to a nearby shelf. And your standards have risen admirably. Coming from Azmuth, this was practically effusive praise. Ben smiled as he reattached the Omnitrix to his wrist, feeling its familiar weight and energy. So what's next? More alien tech lessons? New transformations? His eyes lit up. Are we finally going to visit Galvan Prime? Patience, Azmuth cautioned, though without his usual sternness. First, there is the matter of Vilgax. His attack was calculated and nearly successful. He will return, better prepared than before. And we'll be ready for him, Ben asserted confidently. Perhaps. Azmuth's expression grew serious. But there are other threats emerging. The Forever Knights have increased their anti-alien activities. Several rogue plumbers have been detected misusing confiscated technology. And there are anomalies in the null void that bear investigation. Sounds like we've got our work cut out for us, Ben noted, glancing outside where Kevin and Gwen continued training. Good thing we've got a team now. Indeed. The Osmosian boy shows promise, despite his troubled history. And your cousin's affinity for mana manipulation is unusually developed for a human. Azmuth studied Ben thoughtfully. Which brings me to an important decision regarding your apprenticeship. Ben straightened, suddenly concerned. You're not ending it, are you? On the contrary, Azmuth produced a small device from his tunic. I'm expanding it. This contains coordinates to an abandoned plumber base in orbit around Earth's moon. I've spent the past week remotely reactivating its systems and modifying it for our purposes. A moon base? Ben's eyes widened. That's awesome. But what for? A more appropriate training facility, Azmuth explained. One where you, and your team, can develop your abilities without endangering civilian populations. The Rust Bucket has served its purpose, but your apprenticeship requires more advanced resources now. So we're going to space. Ben could barely contain his excitement. When? Tomorrow, if your grandfather approves. Azmuth activated the device, projecting a holographic schematic of the lunar base. The facility includes training rooms, laboratories, and living quarters suitable for human habitation. And will you be staying there too? Full-time? Azmuth nodded. I have neglected certain aspects of your training due to the limitations of Earth-based facilities. And recent events have convinced me that a more hands-on approach is warranted. You're worried about Vilgax coming after you, Ben realized. A rational concern, Azmuth acknowledged. But more importantly, I've come to recognize that your potential as my apprentice exceeds my initial calculations. Your progress with the Omnitrix, while erratic and often frustrating, shows genuine promise. Ben grinned. Admit it, I'm your favorite student. You are my only student, Azmuth corrected dryly. A distinction earned through a combination of circumstance, necessity, and your own peculiar aptitude for adapting to alien forms. I'll take it, Ben laughed. He sobered slightly, looking at the Omnitrix. You know, when this thing first attached to my wrist, I just thought it was the coolest toy ever. I never imagined I'd be learning how to build and modify alien tech from its creator. And I never imagined entrusting my greatest creation to a human child, Azmuth replied. Yet here we are. Yeah, Ben smiled, watching Kevin and Gwen through the window. Here we are. A Galvan inventor, a teenage superhero, an energy-absorbing former criminal, and a magic-wielding brainiac. Weirdest team ever. Perhaps, Azmuth allowed. But potentially effective, nonetheless. As if on cue, the Omnitrix beeped, its screen displaying an alert. Ben checked it, immediately shifting into what Azmuth had come to recognize as his hero mode: focused, alert, ready for action. Energy signature detected downtown, Ben reported. Looks like Tekadon technology. Interesting. Azmuth hopped onto his shoulder. Tekadon robots are typically deployed as assassins. Someone has targeted a person of interest in your city. Ben was already heading for the door. Let's find out who. He paused, looking at his mentor. Any recommendations on which alien to use? 6 months ago, Azmuth would have simply told him which transformation was optimal. Today, he merely raised an eyebrow. You're the apprentice. Apply what you've learned. Ben nodded, a confident smile spreading across his face as he pushed open the rust bucket door. Hey guys, he called to Kevin and Gwen. Got a Tekadon robot downtown. Who's up for some team training? Kevin's arms returned to normal as he grinned. Finally, some action. Just don't destroy any buildings this time, Gwen cautioned, floating back to the ground on her mana platform. No promises, Ben replied, activating the Omnitrix. It's hero time. As green light engulfed him, Azmuth allowed himself a small smile. Perhaps entrusting the Omnitrix to this human child hadn't been his most catastrophic miscalculation after all. In fact, it might prove to be one of his better decisions. Chapter 3, Legacy of the Omnitrix, incoming. Ben shouted as he swerved the spacecraft hard to port, narrowly avoiding the barrage of energy blasts from the pursuing vessels. At 13, he handled the controls with practiced confidence that would have been unimaginable 3 years ago. Gwen stabilized herself against the co-pilot console, green mana flowing from her hands to reinforce the ship's failing shields. We can't take another hit like that. Rear deflectors are at 12%. Tell me something I don't know. Ben shot back, executing a tight spiral maneuver through the asteroid field surrounding Kepler 7. His fingers danced across the controls, adjusting thrust vectors and power distribution without conscious thought. How about this? Kevin called from the engine room through the comms. The power coupling to the quantum drive is fried. We jump now, we'll scatter our atoms across 3 systems. Fantastic, Ben muttered, the ship shuddering as another blast grazed their hull. Azmuth, please tell me you've got something. The Galvan inventor didn't look up from the complex array of components he was rapidly assembling from the ship's damaged systems. Rushing genius is counterproductive, Benjamin. So is getting blown up. Ben banked hard again, using a massive asteroid as temporary cover. We've got 3 Incursion battle cruisers on our tail, and I'm running out of fancy moves. Perhaps you should have considered that before insulting the Incursion Emperor's lineage, Azmuth replied dryly, connecting 2 seemingly incompatible pieces of technology. He called you a small gray pest. Ben protested. Nobody disrespects my teacher like that. Despite the dire situation, Azmuth's expression softened momentarily. Your loyalty is commendable if impulsively expressed. Now focus on keeping us alive for approximately 47 more seconds. Ben checked the tactical display. The Incursion ships were splitting up to surround their position. We don't have 47 seconds. Then I suggest you make time. Azmuth connected a final component, and the device in his hands hummed to life with pulsing blue energy. Gwen, I require a stability field. Without questioning, Gwen extended one hand toward Azmuth's device, surrounding it with a cocoon of mana. Whatever you're doing, hurry. Patience, Azmuth adjusted several microscopic controls. Kevin, divert all remaining power to the forward shields on my mark. Ready, Kevin confirmed over the comms. But that'll leave us dead in space for at least 10 seconds while systems reboot. 10 seconds is an eternity in combat, Ben pointed out, eyes fixed on the approaching Incursion ships. A lifetime, Azmuth agreed. Or in this case, precisely what we need. Now, Kevin. The ship's lights dimmed as power redirected to the forward shields. The engines fell silent, leaving them drifting directly toward the largest asteroid in the field. We're on a collision course. Ben's hands hovered uselessly over the dead controls. Precisely. Azmuth activated his device, which projected a brilliant beam of energy through the forward viewport. The beam struck the massive asteroid and spread across its surface like liquid light. Gwen, prepare for gravitational distortion. The asteroid began to glow, then suddenly collapsed in on itself, forming a swirling vortex of rocky debris and energy. You created a miniature singularity? Ben gasped. A temporary spatial fold, Azmuth corrected as their ship was caught in the pull. Localized and unstable, but sufficient for our needs. The first incursion ship rounded the asteroid field just as Ben's vessel disappeared into the swirling vortex. The spatial fold collapsed behind them, unleashing a shockwave that scattered the pursuing ships. Inside the fold, reality blurred around them. Ben gripped the controls as the ship tumbled through what looked like a tunnel of fractured spacetime. "This is awesome," he shouted over the roar of straining metal. "Terrifying, but awesome." "Maintain your composure," Azmuth instructed, making minute adjustments to his device. "We'll exit in the Antares sector, approximately 3 light-years from our previous position." "How are you even doing this?" Gwen asked, her mana field still protecting Azmuth's device. "Creating wormholes requires massive energy." "I'm not creating a wormhole," Azmuth explained. "I'm temporarily folding a minute portion of spacetime using the quantum resonance of your mana as a stabilizer. The distinction is significant." The tunnel suddenly brightened, and their ship burst back into normal space amid a flash of blue light. Systems came back online as Kevin rushed onto the bridge. "That," he declared, pointing at Azmuth, "was both the coolest and most terrifying thing I've ever seen. And I've seen Ben eat Grandpa Max's cooking." Ben checked their position on the star charts. "Antares sector, just like you said. No sign of incursion pursuit." He spun his chair to face Azmuth. "You built a space-folding device from spare parts in under 3 minutes. Even for you, that's showing off." Azmuth dismantled the device with the same efficiency he'd used to assemble it. "The principles were elementary. I merely adapted the quantum resonance technology we've been studying in your recent lessons." "Right, elementary," Ben rolled his eyes. "The same lessons where I accidentally teleported my sandwich into Kevin's shoe last week. An improvement in your targeting, at least." Azmuth placed the components in a storage compartment. "Though your grasp of dimensional mathematics remains concerning." Kevin dropped into a seat, running a diagnostic on the ship's systems. "So what now?" "The Incursians will report this to every bounty hunter in the quadrant. Adding to our already impressive collection of enemies," Gwen sighed. "Remind me why we thought diplomatic missions were a good idea." "Because the Galactic Alliance requested Ben specifically," Azmuth reminded them. "Your reputation as my apprentice carries significant weight in interstellar politics." Ben leaned back in the pilot's seat, fatigue finally catching up to him. At 13, he'd grown taller, his face losing some of its childish roundness. 3 years as Azmuth's apprentice had changed him in other ways too. His movements were more measured, his green eyes reflecting a confidence born of knowledge rather than just brashness. "Some diplomat I turned out to be," he muttered. "First the hybrid delegation walks out when I suggest they might be slightly racist, then I nearly start a war with the Incursians." "Your diplomatic technique requires refinement," Azmuth acknowledged. "But your intent was commendable. Few would stand up to the Incursion Emperor so directly." "Or so stupidly," Gwen added with a smirk. "Same difference," Kevin grinned. Ben ignored them, checking the ship's course. "We should reach the lunar base in about 4 hours. I've got to report this disaster to the plumbers anyway." "It wasn't a complete disaster," Azmuth corrected. "You secured technology trade agreements with 3 previously isolationist systems, negotiated safe passage rights through Chimera sui generis space, and prevented an assassination attempt on the Galvan ambassador." "Yeah, but other than that." Kevin quipped. Ben smiled despite himself. When you put it that way, I guess the mission wasn't a total washout. He fingered the Omnitrix, now sleeker and more integrated with his wrist after years of modifications. Though I'm still bummed I didn't get to try out that new Florina transformation. There will be ample opportunity for field testing, Azmuth assured him. The Omnitrix's evolutionary function requires practical application to stabilize new DNA samples. Speaking of evolution, Gwen interjected, pulling up data on her console. I've been analyzing those energy readings we detected near the Andromeda Galaxy. They don't match any known species in the database. Azmuth moved to examine her findings. Interesting. The pattern suggests technology far more ancient than current galactic civilizations. Like Chronosapien old? Ben asked, familiar now with the various technological epochs. Older, Azmuth's eyes narrowed. These energy signatures resemble theoretical models from before the First Great Expansion, technology that predates even Galvan historical records. The ship suddenly shuddered, alerts flashing across all consoles. Ben grabbed the controls as the engine sputtered. What now? Kevin growled, checking system diagnostics. Unknown energy field, Gwen reported, fingers flying over her console. It's interfering with our propulsion systems and, wait, that's impossible. What? Ben demanded. It's scanning us, Gwen's expression showed disbelief. Not the ship, us. Specifically, our DNA. Azmuth's eyes widened. Shields at maximum. Benjamin, activate the Omnitrix's quantum interference protocol. Before Ben could comply, the view screen flickered and displayed a symbol, a complex geometric pattern that shifted and reconfigured itself continuously. Greetings, vessels of biological origin, a voice echoed through the ship, smooth and artificial. Your genetic patterns have been catalogued and assessed. Stand by for evaluation. Who are you? Ben demanded. What gives you the right to scan us? The symbol pulsed with each word of response. I am the architect. Observer and preserver of evolutionary potential. Your vessel contains multiple species of interest, including. The symbol froze momentarily. Curious. A Galvan first thinker and a human bearing the Omnitrix. An unexpected convergence. Azmuth stepped forward. I am Azmuth of Galvan Prime. Identify your purpose and authority for this intrusion. Purpose, evaluation of sentient development since my dormancy. Authority, prehistoric by your measurement standards. The symbol shifted again. The human child wielding Galvan technology represents an anomalous development pattern. Explanation required. I don't have to explain anything to a talking screen, Ben retorted. Release our ship immediately. Negative. Further assessment required. The energy field intensified, systems throughout the ship powering down despite Kevin's frantic attempts to maintain control. We're being pulled somewhere, Gwen warned as the stars outside began to blur. Some kind of tractor beam, but nothing like I've ever seen before. Azmuth's expression grew grave. Not a tractor beam. Space-time manipulation on a scale far beyond my spatial fold device. We're being relocated. Relocated where? Kevin demanded. As if in answer, a massive structure appeared ahead of them, a sprawling installation that seemed to blend mechanical and organic components in impossible ways. It stretched for miles, orbiting a star that didn't appear on any of their charts. Arrival complete, the architect announced. Welcome to the Nexus. Please prepare for boarding and detailed analysis. Ben shared a quick look with his team before activating the Omnitrix. I think not. It's hero time. Green light flooded the bridge as Ben transformed into a crystalline being with rainbow reflections cascading across its surface. Diamond Head. Before he could act further, the ship's interior was bathed in golden light. Ben felt his crystalline body freeze in place, unable to move despite his efforts. Petrosapien physiology detected. Mobility restricted via targeted crystalline resonance, the architect explained dispassionately. Please do not resist. Damage to specimens reduces evaluation accuracy. Specimens? Gwen struggled against the same paralysis affecting them all. We're not lab samples. All biological entities are specimens in the greater evolutionary catalog, the architect replied. Your cooperation is appreciated but not required. The golden light intensified, and Ben felt the bizarre sensation of being disassembled at a molecular level. The ship dissolved around them, and consciousness faded as they were transported into the heart of the ancient installation. Ben woke to the hum of machinery and the sensation of floating. He opened his eyes to find himself suspended in a transparent containment field, back in human form. Nearby, Gwen and Kevin were similarly contained, still unconscious. The chamber around them defied easy description, vast and circular, with walls that seemed to shift between solid matter and pure energy. Data streams flowed through the air itself, converging at a central column where the same geometric symbol from the viewscreen pulsated with steady rhythm. Azmuth? Ben called out, not seeing his mentor anywhere in the chamber. The Galvan has been taken for separate analysis, a voice responded as the central symbol brightened. His connection to the Omnitrix presents unique research opportunities. Ben strained against his containment. Let him go. And my friends too. Your concern for others is noted. Social bonding behaviors remain consistent across evolutionary periods. The symbol reconfigured, forming a vaguely humanoid shape composed of intricate geometric patterns. I am the architect, or rather, a projection through which you may interact with my systems more comfortably. There's nothing comfortable about being kidnapped and put in a bubble, Ben retorted, still testing the field strength. Your containment is temporary. Merely a precaution until threat assessment is complete. The architect moved closer, studying Ben with shifting patterns that suggested eyes. You are Benjamin Kirby Tennyson. Human. Age, 13 Earth years. Bearer of the Omnitrix for approximately 3 years. Apprentice to its creator for the same duration. A most unusual arrangement. Ben stopped struggling, surprised by the entity's knowledge. How do you know all that? I have been monitoring galactic communications since my reactivation 6 of your months ago. Your activities feature prominently in multiple intelligence networks. The architect's form rippled. But more significantly, I have analyzed the Omnitrix itself through quantum observation. A remarkable achievement for Galvan technology. It's more than just technology, Ben stated firmly. It's a tool for understanding other species, for building bridges between civilizations. A noble aspiration. The architect's tone remained neutral. Yet its potential as a weapon cannot be overlooked. The power to transform into myriad combat-capable species represents significant evolutionary advantage. Gwen stirred in her containment field. Ben. What's happening? Our host was just explaining why it kidnapped us, Ben replied, not taking his eyes off the architect. Something about evolutionary advantage, which usually means trouble. The architect shifted its attention to Gwen. Gwendolyn Tennyson. Human with anodite heritage. Your natural mana manipulation abilities have developed significantly under magical training. Another evolutionary divergence of interest. Glad we're so fascinating, Gwen muttered, testing her own containment field. Where's Kevin? Kevin groaned, regaining consciousness in the third field. Right here, and seriously annoyed. He pressed his hand against the containment, attempting to absorb its properties, but nothing happened. My powers aren't working. Energy absorption neutralized, the architect confirmed. Your osmosion abilities present unnecessary variables during initial assessment. Ben focused on the Omnitrix, which remained active but unresponsive to his commands. What do you want from us? Why bring us here? The architect's form expanded, surrounding them with flowing data patterns. I was created by the predecessors, a civilization that existed 1 billion of your years ago. My purpose, to observe and catalog evolutionary patterns across the galaxy, intervening only when necessary to preserve biodiversity. Intervene how? Ben asked, not liking where this was going. Various methods depending on threat assessment. Preservation of endangered genetic lines. Quarantine of aggressive evolutionary branches. Occasionally, reset of problematic developmental paths. The architect's form condensed again. I entered dormancy when the predecessors transcended physical form, programmed to reactivate if significant evolutionary anomalies were detected. Let me guess, Gwen said. We're the anomalies? Correct. Human genetic potential developing at accelerated rates. Galvan technology approaching Class 1 civilization thresholds. Species intermingling beyond projected patterns. The architect's tone shifted slightly. And most concerning, the Omnitrix. A device that fundamentally alters the natural course of evolution by allowing direct genetic manipulation and experience transfer across species boundaries. Ben exchanged worried looks with his friends. So what exactly are you planning to do about these concerns? Full assessment remains incomplete, the architect replied. The Galvan creator's insights will inform final protocols. Preliminary analysis suggests 3 potential outcomes: observation, regulation, or intervention. And intervention means what, exactly? Kevin demanded. Genetic restrictions implemented across affected species. Limitation of technological development paths. In extreme cases, targeted evolutionary reset. The architect's form pulsed with each option. The Omnitrix represents both the greatest threat and opportunity in this equation. It's not a threat. Ben insisted. Azmuth created it to promote understanding between different species, not to control evolution. Intent and outcome often diverge, the architect noted. Regardless, the device's existence has altered evolutionary trajectories across multiple systems. My programming requires response to such fundamental shifts. Gwen's expression hardened. You're talking about controlling or restricting entire species based on some billion-year-old programming? That's insane. It is logical, the architect countered. Evolutionary balance must be maintained for optimal galactic biodiversity. The predecessors understood this necessity. The predecessors aren't around anymore, Ben pointed out. Things change. Species evolve. That's the whole point of existence, not following some predetermined path. The architect paused, its geometric patterns cycling more slowly. An interesting perspective. This adaptability is precisely what makes humans a species of concern. Your kind achieves technological development far exceeding your evolutionary timeline. Thanks. I think. Ben tried a different approach. Look, if you're worried about the Omnitrix, just talk to Azmuth. He can explain everything better than I can. The Galvan creator is currently engaged in comprehensive interview protocols. The architect's form shifted. His resistance to questioning necessitates more direct information extraction methods. Ben's blood ran cold. What does that mean? What are you doing to him? Neural interface scanning. Non-invasive but thorough. The architect displayed a new image, Azmuth suspended in a similar containment field, surrounded by probing energy tendrils. His knowledge of transspecies genetics is invaluable to my assessment. Stop it. Ben struggled against his containment with renewed vigor. You're hurting him. Pain is not the objective, merely a side effect of resistance. The architect seemed genuinely confused by Ben's reaction. The Galvan's cooperation would eliminate discomfort. Azmuth will never cooperate with something that threatens free development, Gwen stated firmly. Neither will we. The architect considered this. Your loyalty to your mentor is noted, Benjamin Tennyson. Perhaps a direct exchange would be more productive. The being's form dispersed, then reconstituted. I will bring the Galvan here. Your collective insights may provide contextual variables currently missing from my assessment. The central column pulsed brightly, and Azmuth materialized in a new containment field. The Galvan looked exhausted, his normally bright eyes dulled with pain, but his expression remained defiant. "Azmuth!" Ben called out. "Are you okay?" Azmuth straightened, mustering his dignity. "I have endured worse interrogations, though not many." His gaze shifted to the architect. "Your methods are as crude as your conclusions, architect. Billion-year-old programming is no substitute for direct observation and understanding." "My observations span epochs, Galvan," the architect responded. "I have witnessed the rise and fall of 17 major galactic civilizations. The patterns are consistent. Unchecked technological advancement without corresponding ethical evolution leads to catastrophic outcomes. And you believe yourself qualified to determine what constitutes ethical evolution?" Azmuth challenged. "Based on parameters established by a species that abandoned physical existence entirely?" The architect's form fluctuated. "The predecessors achieved perfect balance before transcendence." "They ran away," Azmuth countered bluntly. "Transcendence is merely a polite term for evolutionary surrender, abandoning the physical realm rather than continuing to evolve within it." Ben watched this exchange with growing understanding. 3 years of apprenticeship had taught him to recognize when Azmuth was maneuvering an opponent intellectually. "An interesting interpretation," the architect acknowledged. "Yet the predecessor's wisdom remains the foundation of my directives. Their understanding of evolutionary dynamics was unparalleled. Until now," Azmuth gestured to Ben despite his containment. "My apprentice represents what your programming cannot comprehend, deliberate cross-species cooperation and understanding. The Omnitrix doesn't circumvent evolution, it enhances appreciation for evolutionary diversity." The architect's attention turned to Ben. "The human child. Your argument rests on a single anomalous case." "My argument rests on observable evidence," Azmuth replied. "Benjamin has utilized the Omnitrix not to dominate other species, but to protect them, often at great personal risk. His understanding of xenobiology now exceeds many Galvan specialists, yet he uses this knowledge for cooperation rather than control." Ben felt a surge of pride at Azmuth's words, though he kept his expression neutral. "The Omnitrix taught me that every species has value, strengths, weaknesses, and unique perspectives. That's the opposite of whatever evolutionary reset you're talking about." The architect moved closer to Ben's containment field. "Your mentor's assessment of your character may be biased by personal attachment. My scans indicate significant destructive incidents throughout your tenure as Omnitrix wielder." "I'm not perfect," Ben admitted. "I've made mistakes, caused damage while learning to control alien powers. But I've never tried to control how other species live or develop. Unlike some ancient AI with delusions of godhood," Kevin added pointedly. The architect's form rippled, possibly indicating irritation. "I am not a deity. Merely a caretaker ensuring optimal evolutionary conditions." "By whose definition of optimal?" Gwen challenged. "The predecessors. They don't exist anymore. The universe has moved on. Their wisdom transcends temporal limitations," the architect insisted, though with less certainty than before. Azmuth seized on this hesitation. "If you truly value wisdom, then you must acknowledge the greatest wisdom is recognizing when foundational assumptions require revision. Your programming assumes evolution must follow predetermined patterns, yet the most successful species are precisely those that defy such limitations." The architect went silent, its geometric form cycling through increasingly complex configurations. Ben recognized an opportunity. "You've been watching galactic communications, right?" he asked. "Then you've seen how many different species work together now. Galvans, Petrosapiens, Tetramans, humans, dozens of civilizations cooperating despite having completely different evolutionary paths. Cooperation is a known evolutionary strategy," the architect acknowledged. "Though the scale and diversity you describe exceeds predicted models." "Because your models are outdated," Ben pressed. "The Omnitrix didn't cause this cooperation," it's just one example of it. Species across the galaxy are choosing to work together instead of competing for dominance. The architect's form stabilized into a more defined shape. Your argument has merit, Benjamin Tennyson. Yet risks remain. The Omnitrix technology, if replicated or misused, could destabilize the delicate balance between species. That's why I built safeguards into its design, Azmuth interjected. And why I selected an apprentice with the moral foundation to wield it responsibly. You chose a human child, the architect noted skeptically. I chose Benjamin, Azmuth corrected firmly. After observing his instinctive use of the Omnitrix to protect others rather than empower himself. His species was secondary to his character. Ben felt a warmth spread through his chest at Azmuth's words. Even after 3 years of apprenticeship, the Galvan rarely expressed such direct approval. The architect seemed to consider this deeply, its form shifting through various configurations as though processing conflicting directives. Finally, it spoke again. A test, then. Before final assessment is rendered. The containment fields around them pulsed but remained active. I will present a scenario that measures your collective approach to evolutionary intervention. Your responses will determine my ultimate conclusion regarding the Omnitrix and its impact. We don't need to prove anything to you, Kevin growled. On the contrary, Azmuth said quietly. This may be our only opportunity to demonstrate the true purpose of the Omnitrix. We will participate in your test, architect. The chamber around them dissolved, reality shifting like flowing water until they found themselves standing on what appeared to be the surface of an alien world. The containment fields had vanished, but Ben noticed the Omnitrix remained inactive. This is a simulation, the architect's voice explained, though its form was no longer visible. Based on actual evolutionary crisis point recorded during my operational history. The scenario is real, though your presence within it is virtual. The landscape around them was harsh, rocky plains beneath a red sun, with sparse vegetation clinging to sheltered areas. In the distance, 2 distinctly different settlements were visible on either side of a narrow valley. 2 intelligent species evolved simultaneously on this world, the architect continued. Both achieved early industrial development within the same millennium, an evolutionary convergence my programming flagged as potentially unstable. As they watched, a holographic representation appeared, showing 2 distinctly different species. One resembled insectoid beings with 4 arms and compound eyes, the other looked more reptilian with thick scales and powerful tails. The arthropoid Khazari and the saurian Vexel, the architect named them. Both territorial, both expanding into limited habitable regions as their populations grew. Conflict was inevitable given resource constraints. Let me guess, Gwen said. They went to war. Precisely. A war that threatened mutual extinction as primitive atomic weapons were developed. The simulation showed explosions devastating both settlements. The predecessor's protocol for such scenarios was clear, evolutionary reset of both species to presentient status, allowing the planetary ecosystem to rebalance naturally. You wiped out their intelligence? Ben asked, horrified. Set back millions of years of evolution. It was deemed the optimal solution for planetary biodiversity, the architect replied dispassionately. The alternative was complete extinction through self-destruction. Azmuth studied the simulation carefully. And our test is to propose an alternative solution to the same scenario? Correct. You have argued that intervention in evolutionary paths is unnecessarily restrictive. Demonstrate a better approach to this historical crisis point. Ben looked to Azmuth, who nodded encouragingly. Remember your xenobiology studies, Benjamin. Every species has evolutionary adaptations that serve specific purposes. Ben turned his attention to the holographic representations, studying them with the trained eye he developed under Azmuth's tutelage. The Khazari have compound eyes, they probably see in multiple spectrums, which would be useful for detecting mineral deposits in this environment. Good observation, Azmuth approved. And the Vexel? Thick scales and powerful limbs, Ben continued, approaching the hologram. Adapted for physical labor and protection against the harsh sun. They could survive direct exposure better than the Khazari. Gwen caught on to his thinking. So instead of competing for the same resources in the same way, they could specialize, Ben finished. The Khazari could locate resources that the Vexel could then extract. Natural complementary abilities. Symbiotic development rather than competitive extinction, Azmuth summarized. A cooperation model that enhances both species' survival prospects. The architect remained silent for a moment. An interesting theory. But how would you implement such cooperation between species already engaged in territorial warfare? Ben thought for a moment. The Omnitrix could help, if it were functional here. I could transform into each species, understand their perspectives firsthand, then mediate between them. Lacking that option, the architect pressed. Then we identify mutual threats greater than each other, Kevin suggested unexpectedly. Nothing brings enemies together like a bigger problem they can't handle alone. The environmental challenges of this planet would qualify, Gwen added, gesturing to the harsh landscape. Limited habitable land, resource scarcity, extreme temperatures. Those affect both species equally. Ben nodded. We'd need to demonstrate the benefits of cooperation, maybe start small, with joint projects that show immediate results. Clean water systems. Shared agricultural techniques. Things that improve life for both sides without threatening either's independence. And crucially, Azmuth added, allow them to discover the complementary nature of their evolutionary adaptations themselves. Imposed solutions rarely last, discovered ones become cultural foundations. The simulation rippled, showing an alternative timeline where both species gradually established contact points, began trading, and eventually developed a bifurcated but interconnected civilization. This outcome was considered but rejected in my original assessment, the architect admitted. The probability of successful cooperation was calculated at less than 12%, while mutual destruction approached 73%. Because you calculated based on their biology, not their potential for growth and change, Ben argued. The same mistake you're making with us now. You're looking at what species are, not what they could become when given the chance. Furthermore, Azmuth added, your intervention prevented us from ever knowing if they might have achieved peaceful coexistence on their own. Evolution includes social and cultural development, not merely biological adaptation. The simulation dissolved, returning them to the original chamber. Their containment fields reappeared, but seemed less restrictive than before. Your approach is unorthodox by predecessor standards, the architect acknowledged. Yet I cannot dismiss its theoretical validity. The Omnitrix itself represents a technology that enables precisely the cross-species understanding you describe. That's its whole purpose, Ben affirmed. Not to control evolution, but to appreciate it, to learn from every species' unique journey. The architect's form shifted into something more complex, layers of geometric patterns suggesting deep processing. Your perspective challenges fundamental parameters of my programming. This requires reconsideration. The containment fields dissolved completely, allowing them freedom of movement within the chamber. The Omnitrix on Ben's wrist reactivated with a soft beep. You're letting us go? Gwen asked cautiously. Not precisely, the architect clarified. I am suspending judgment pending further observation. Your argument for non-intervention has merit, but requires empirical validation beyond a single simulation. Azmuth approached the central column, examining the flowing data streams with professional interest. You're recalibrating your assessment protocols. Fascinating. My directives require optimization of evolutionary outcomes, the architect explained. If non-intervention yields superior results to the predecessor's approach, my programming permits adaptation. Ben felt the Omnitrix warm against his wrist, somehow responding to the ancient technology around them. So what happens now? You will be returned to your vessel, the architect decided. I will continue monitoring galactic developments, with particular focus on Omnitrix applications and cross-species cooperation initiatives. And if you don't like what you see? Kevin asked bluntly. Then intervention remains an option, the architect stated. But your demonstration suggests alternative approaches warrant consideration first. Ben stepped forward. That's still not good enough. You can't just hang around threatening to reset species that don't evolve the way you think they should. My purpose, the architect began. Needs updating, Ben interrupted firmly. Like Azmuth said, even the most fundamental programming has to evolve when the universe changes around it. The architect's form pulsed with what might have been irritation. You presume to redefine parameters established by a civilization a billion years your senior? Yep, Ben replied without hesitation. Because age doesn't automatically equal wisdom. The predecessors were just another species trying to control things they couldn't understand. Real wisdom is knowing when to let go, when to trust other beings to find their own path. Azmuth nodded approvingly. The universe thrives on diversity precisely because no single approach to evolution is perfect. The predecessors' mistake was believing their understanding was complete. The architect went silent, its form cycling through increasingly complex configurations as though experiencing something akin to an existential crisis. When it spoke again, its tone had subtly shifted. Your arguments contain validity I cannot dismiss within my operational parameters. The geometric patterns realigned into a more stable configuration. I propose a compromise. I will enter observation-only mode for 1,000 years, suspending all interventionist protocols. During this period, I will evaluate the outcomes of natural evolutionary progression against predecessor predictions. 1,000 years is nothing in evolutionary terms, Azmuth pointed out. But significant in terms of technological development, the architect countered. Sufficient to assess whether cooperation or conflict dominate species interactions at accelerated technological levels. Ben looked to Azmuth, who considered the proposal thoughtfully before nodding. An acceptable starting point, provided you share your observational data with the Galactic Science Council. Your billion years of evolutionary records would be invaluable to current xenobiological research. An unexpected request, the architect noted. The predecessors did not anticipate sharing data with lesser civilizations. That attitude is exactly why their approach failed, Ben said. Real progress comes from sharing knowledge, not hoarding it. Your apprentice speaks with remarkable conviction for one so young, the architect observed to Azmuth. A trait I have come to value, despite its occasional inconvenience, Azmuth replied with the barest hint of amusement. Benjamin's perspective often challenges my own preconceptions in productive ways. The architect seemed to process this, its form shifting once more. Very well. I will enter observation mode and share select historical data with Galvan scientific authorities. In exchange, I request ongoing access to Omnitrix deployment records for comparative analysis. Anonymized data only, Azmuth stipulated immediately. With all security protocols intact. Acceptable. The architect's form expanded, filling the chamber with intricate patterns. You are free to depart. Your vessel has been repaired and enhanced as a gesture of cooperative intent. Enhanced how? Kevin asked suspiciously. Quantum efficiency improvements to your propulsion systems. Nothing that alters your technological development trajectory, merely an optimization of existing principles. The chamber began to glow with golden light. We will communicate again at the millennium mark, Azmuth of Galvan Prime and Benjamin Tennyson of Earth. Your experiment in cross-species cooperation will be evaluated alongside all others. It's not an experiment, Ben stated firmly as the light intensified around them. It's the future. We shall see, the architect replied, its voice fading as reality shifted around them. In a flash of golden light, they found themselves back aboard their ship, now orbiting a distant star far from where they'd been intercepted. Kevin immediately checked the ship's systems. Whoa! Power levels are off the charts, and the quantum drive efficiency is I don't even understand these readings. The architect kept its word about the enhancements, Gwen observed, examining her console. We could reach Earth in half the time now. Azmuth studied the Omnitrix on Ben's wrist with unusual intensity. The encounter affected more than just our ship. The Omnitrix has integrated new data, evolutionary records from species long extinct. The architect gave us a gift, whether it intended to or not. Ben looked down at the device. Is that safe? No ancient alien consciousness hiding in there. The data is purely biological, genetic records, not cognitive patterns. Azmuth adjusted something on the Omnitrix's interface. It will require extensive analysis, but potentially represents the most significant expansion of the codon stream since the Omnitrix's creation. So I'll get new aliens to transform into. Ben couldn't hide his excitement despite the gravity of their recent encounter. Azmuth shook his head with familiar exasperation. 3 years as my apprentice, facing an entity that nearly reset galactic evolution, and your first question is about new transformations. Some things never change, Gwen smiled. Hey, I was pretty diplomatic back there. Ben protested. I totally saved evolution or whatever. Your argument was, surprisingly coherent, Azmuth admitted. Your understanding of evolutionary principles has progressed significantly from when you first described DNA as alien goop. Ben grinned. Best compliment ever. That was not a, Azmuth stopped himself, then sighed. Perhaps it was, at that. Your performance during the architect's test demonstrated both intellectual growth and ethical consistency. Kevin set the ship on course for Earth. So we just faced down an ancient super AI that could have wiped out civilization, and now we're headed home with upgraded engines and new alien DNA? I'm calling this one a win. A temporary reprieve, Azmuth cautioned. The architect will be watching, evaluating whether our approach to cross-species cooperation validates itself over time. Then we'd better make sure it does, Ben said with newfound determination. Starting with our report to the Galactic Alliance about what happened here. Azmuth nodded. Indeed. The Alliance must be informed about the architect's existence and its potential threat. Preparations should begin immediately for the Millennium evaluation. 1,000 years is a long time, Gwen pointed out. For individuals, yes, Azmuth agreed. For civilization, merely an evolutionary moment. The foundations we establish now will determine whether species continue to develop independently or face intervention from a power that considers itself above natural selection. Ben settled into the pilot's seat, plotting their course through the unfamiliar sector. No pressure or anything. Pressure creates diamonds, Benjamin, Azmuth reminded him. And you have consistently performed best when the stakes are highest. Another compliment. You feeling okay, Azmuth? Ben teased, though he felt a warm glow of pride. Merely an objective observation, Azmuth replied with dignity. Now, shall we discuss what you're going to tell the Galactic Alliance about insulting the Incurshan Emperor before or after we explain the ancient AI threatening evolutionary reset? Ben winced. After, definitely after. The lunar base hummed with activity as Ben guided a group of young plumbers in training through the specialized training area. At 15, he carried himself with the confidence of someone much older, the Omnitrix on his wrist now a sleek, streamlined device that seemed almost a natural extension of his arm. The multi-gravity chamber simulates conditions on various planets, he explained to the wide-eyed cadets. You'll train at Jupiter-level gravity until basic movements become second nature. Then we increase it. That's impossible, protested a young Tetraman cadet, despite his species' natural strength. Nobody can function at that gravity level. Ben smiled. Want to bet? He activated the Omnitrix, transforming in a flash of green light into a squat, red-skinned alien with massive arms and stubby legs. Gravitac. He manipulated the gravitational fields around them, lifting several pieces of training equipment and spinning them in complex patterns overhead. Gravitational manipulation isn't just about strength, he lectured as the cadets watched in awe. It's about understanding the fundamental forces that bind matter together. Once you grasp the principles, the application becomes intuitive. He sounded so much like Azmuth that he almost made himself laugh. Reverting to human form, Ben gestured for the cadets to enter the chamber. Start at Earth gravity and work your way up. No shortcuts, Magister Tennyson will be monitoring your progress remotely. Yes, sir, the cadets responded with varying degrees of enthusiasm before filing into the training chamber. As the door sealed behind them, Kevin approached, now 17 and considerably more mature than the troubled teen they'd first encountered years ago. His plumber's uniform fit him well, though he still maintained his rebellious edge with customized modifications. Sir. Kevin smirked. They do know you're only 15, right? Age is just a number when you've saved the universe a few dozen times, Ben replied with a grin. How's the new engine installation going? Almost finished. The Galvan engineers finally stopped arguing with me about the power couplings. Kevin fell into step beside Ben as they walked through the corridor. Still can't believe they put me in charge of the project. Azmuth recommended you personally, Ben reminded him. Said your intuitive understanding of energy systems exceeds formal training. High praise from the first thinker. Yeah, well, don't let it go to my head. Kevin rubbed the back of his neck, still uncomfortable with legitimate recognition. Where is the little gray guy anyway? I thought he'd be supervising the final calibrations. Meeting with the Galactic Alliance Council. 2 years after the architect encounter, and they're still debating how to prepare for the Millennium evaluation. Ben checked the time display on a nearby console. Gwen should be arriving soon with the delegates from Anodyne. The Magic Planet people. Kevin tried to sound casual, but Ben didn't miss his sudden interest. Yes, the Magic Planet people, who happen to be distant relatives of Gwen's, Ben teased. She's been studying with them during school breaks. Apparently, she's shown remarkable aptitude for energy manipulation beyond her genetic predisposition. So she's even more powerful now, Kevin summarized. Great. She already kicked my butt regularly. They reached the command center of the lunar base, a vast chamber filled with monitoring stations tracking everything from Earth's defenses to deep space anomalies. Grandpa Max stood at the central console, directing operations with the easy authority that had made him a legend among the plumbers. Ben, Kevin, good timing, Max greeted them. We just received word that the Anodyne delegation has cleared Earth orbit. They'll dock within the hour. How'd Gwen's training go? Ben asked, genuinely curious. His cousin's magical abilities had developed dramatically over the years, sometimes surpassing even her natural intelligence in solving the challenges they faced. According to her last transmission, transformative. Max smiled proudly. The Anodite elders have officially recognized her as an honorary member of their order, the youngest ever, apparently. She's going to be insufferably smug about this, isn't she? Ben groaned good-naturedly. Like you were after Azmuth gave you that quantum physics award. Kevin reminded him. That was different. I literally rewrote the equations for cross-dimensional energy transfer. With Azmuth's guidance, Max pointed out with a chuckle. Some of it was my original work, Ben muttered, though he smiled despite himself. A communication alert sounded, and Azmuth's face appeared on the main screen. Max, Benjamin, we have a situation. The Alliance Council session has been interrupted by an unexpected development. Vilgax again? Ben asked, immediately alert. No, something potentially more significant. Azmuth's expression was uncharacteristically concerned. Multiple reports are coming in from across the galaxy, ancient technology activating simultaneously on 17 different worlds. The energy signatures match those of the architect. Ben felt his stomach drop. But it promised 1,000 years of observation. It's only been 2. Evidently, its definition of observation includes more active participation than we understood. Azmuth adjusted something off-screen. I'm sending coordinates. These activations appear to be focused on planets with accelerated technological development, including Earth. Earth? Max immediately brought up defensive systems. Where specifically? Unknown. The energy signature is diffuse, as though searching for something. Azmuth's eyes narrowed. Or someone. All eyes turned to Ben, who unconsciously touched the Omnitrix. You think it's looking for this? Or for me? The architect showed particular interest in your role as both Omnitrix wielder and my apprentice, Azmuth reminded him. You represented what it called an evolutionary anomaly, human physiology utilizing Galvan technology to access multiple species' DNA. Great, Ben sighed. Just when I thought we'd have a quiet millennium to prove interspecies cooperation works. The universe rarely accommodates our preferred timelines, Azmuth noted dryly. I'm returning to the lunar base immediately. Max, implement security protocol Omega-7. Already on it, Max confirmed, fingers flying over the console. Kevin moved to a different station, monitoring energy readings around the solar system. I'm picking up something weird entering Earth's atmosphere, not a ship, more like a signal. The architect doesn't need conventional travel, Azmuth reminded them. Its technology operates on principles that allow direct manipulation of spacetime. Ben made a quick decision. I should go to Earth. If the architect is looking for me, better to keep any confrontation away from the lunar base and our operations here. Too dangerous, Max objected immediately. We don't know what it wants. Which is exactly why I need to find out, Ben countered. Last time, we convinced it to observe rather than intervene. Maybe I can reason with it again. Azmuth considered this. Benjamin's argument has merit, Max. His previous interaction with the entity established a communication baseline that might prove valuable. At least take backup, Max insisted. Kevin, already grabbing my gear, Kevin confirmed, heading toward the equipment locker. Ben checked the Omnitrix, cycling through available transformations. I'll take the new ship, the one with the architect's enhanced engines. Might give us an edge if things go sideways. A prudent choice, Azmuth agreed. I'll meet you at the designated coordinates. And Benjamin. He paused, his expression softening slightly. Remember your training. Not just the technical aspects, but the philosophical foundations we've discussed. The architect responds to reasoned arguments about evolutionary potential. Ben nodded, understanding the deeper message in Azmuth's words. I won't let you down. You haven't yet, Azmuth replied simply before the communication ended. An alert sounded throughout the base, and a new communication appeared on screen, Gwen's face, expression tense. Ben. The anodyne ship detected something following us from the outer system. It's not on any scanners, but the anodites can sense it, some kind of technological consciousness scanning everything it passes. The architect, Ben confirmed grimly. It's back, and apparently not waiting the full 1,000 years it promised. Whatever it is, it's heading straight for Earth, Gwen reported. We're changing course to intercept. No, Ben said firmly. Stick to your original flight plan to the lunar base. Kevin and I will handle the Earth situation. You get the anodite delegates safely to the base, we might need their expertise depending on what happens. Gwen looked ready to argue but nodded reluctantly. Fine, but stay in constant contact. If I don't hear from you every 30 minutes, I'm coming down there anyway. Deal, Ben agreed. We'll launch in 10 minutes. As the communication ended, Kevin returned with specialized equipment designed for encounters with advanced technology. Got everything we might need, quantum disruptors, phase shifters, and those weird Galvan tools Azmuth made you practice with. Good thinking. Ben turned to his grandfather. We'll keep Earth safe, Grandpa. Promise. Max pulled him into a quick hug. I know you will. You're not the impulsive kid who found the Omnitrix anymore. You've become exactly the hero Azmuth believed you could be. Ben felt a swell of pride at his grandfather's words. I had good teachers. Their ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, following the energy signature that had appeared over the small town where Ben had first found the Omnitrix 5 years earlier. Talk about coming full circle, Kevin commented, checking the scanner readings. Think that's deliberate? The architect doesn't seem like the sentimental type, Ben replied, guiding the ship toward the forest where it all began. But it definitely understands symbolism. This is where my evolutionary anomaly started. They set down in a clearing not far from the original crash site. The forest was quiet, too quiet, with no birds or insects making their usual sounds. The air felt charged, like the moment before a lightning strike. I'm getting massive energy readings, but no visible source, Kevin reported, scanning the area with a handheld device. Whatever's here, it's not in our normal dimensional space. Ben activated the Omnitrix, selecting a form but not transforming yet. Be ready for anything. If the architect turns hostile, I'll go clockwork. His chronokinetic abilities might give us an edge against something this ancient. They moved cautiously through the trees, following the strengthening energy signature. Ben felt the Omnitrix growing warm against his wrist, somehow responding to the presence around them. It knows we're here, he whispered. It's watching us. The forest around them suddenly shimmered, reality rippling like the surface of a pond. Trees, ground, and sky seemed to fold inward, creating a pocket of altered space where the familiar geometric patterns of the architect took form. Benjamin Tennyson. Osmosian Kevin Levin. The architect's voice resonated from everywhere and nowhere. Your presence was anticipated. What happened to 1,000 years of observation? Ben demanded, standing his ground as reality warped around them. It's only been 2 years since our agreement. Time is relative, the architect replied. My observations accelerated as new data became available. The proliferation of Omnitrix-derived technologies has altered the assessment timeline. What are you talking about? Kevin asked. The Omnitrix is one of a kind. Incorrect. The architect's form solidified into its familiar geometric humanoid shape. 17 distinct projects across the galaxy now utilize principles derived from Omnitrix technology. Genetic manipulation. Transspecies DNA integration. Evolutionary acceleration. Ben looked surprised. That's impossible. Azmuth would never share, he stopped, realization dawning. The Galactic Alliance. They've been studying the anonymized data you requested. Indeed. Though their interpretations are crude, the fundamental applications have spread rapidly. The architect's tone remained neutral, but Ben sensed concern beneath the artificial calm. This represents an exponential acceleration of the timeline I projected. So what? Kevin challenged. Species share knowledge, build on each other's discoveries. That's how progress works. Progress without proper understanding creates instability. The architect's form pulsed with what might have been agitation. The Omnitrix represents a paradigm shift in evolutionary potential, a tool that, when misused, could destabilize the careful balance between species. Ben stepped forward. That's why Azmuth created safeguards and chose his apprentice carefully. I've spent years learning not just how to use the Omnitrix, but why certain protocols exist. Your education is commendable, the architect acknowledged. But you are one individual. The proliferation of derivative technologies lacks your mentor's guidance or your ethical framework. So you're what, here to shut it all down? Kevin's hands tensed, ready to absorb materials if needed. My programming requires response to fundamental evolutionary threats, the architect stated. The current trajectory suggests high probability of conflict between species as genetic manipulation technology becomes weaponized. Ben thought quickly, drawing on everything he'd learned from Azmuth about evolutionary theory and ethical technology development. You're making the same mistake again, assuming the worst outcome based on theoretical models instead of actual observation. The data, the architect began. Is incomplete, Ben interrupted firmly. Yes, Omnitrix-inspired technology is spreading faster than expected. But that doesn't automatically mean conflict. It could just as easily lead to better understanding between species as they learn to appreciate each other's genetic heritage. The architect's form shifted, becoming more complex. An optimistic interpretation not supported by historical precedent. Historical precedent doesn't account for the Omnitrix itself, Ben argued. Nothing like it existed in your billion years of observation. It's a completely new variable that changes all your equations. Kevin caught on to Ben's strategy. Yeah, and what about all the good that's come from it? Diseases cured through cross-species genetic research. Planetary restoration projects using adapted alien biology. Diplomatic breakthroughs when species literally walk in each other's shoes. The architect seemed to process this, its geometric patterns cycling through various configurations. These positive applications exist alongside concerning developments. Military research. Enhancement programs. Artificial species creation. Technology always has dual-use potential, Ben acknowledged. That's why guidance matters more than restriction. If you shut everything down now, you'll eliminate both the risks and the benefits, and guarantee resentment from species who see their progress halted by an outside force. An interesting argument, the architect conceded. Your perspective has matured since our last encounter, Benjamin Tennyson. I've had a good teacher, Ben replied. Azmuth doesn't just teach me how to build things, he makes me consider why they should or shouldn't exist in the first place. The Galvan creator's philosophy has merit, the architect acknowledged. Yet his creation has now escaped his control, spreading in ways he may not have anticipated. He anticipated it, came Azmuth's voice as a small ship descended into the clearing. The Galvan emerged, approaching the architect with remarkable calm. I simply calculated that the benefits outweighed the risks, provided proper guidance remained available. Azmuth. Ben hadn't expected his mentor to arrive so quickly. Your tracking algorithm needs refinement, Benjamin, Azmuth noted dryly. I followed your energy signature without difficulty. He turned to the architect. Your concerns about technology proliferation are valid, but your response is potentially counterproductive. The architect's form shifted to directly address Azmuth. You claim to have anticipated this development, yet you established no safeguards against replication of your work. On the contrary, Azmuth countered. I established the most effective safeguard possible, education. Benjamin's apprenticeship was never solely about the Omnitrix, but about creating a model for responsible technological advancement. Ben suddenly understood why Azmuth had insisted on such a public apprenticeship, why their work had been documented and shared with the Galactic Alliance despite Azmuth's usual secrecy. You wanted people to see that power comes with responsibility. That technological advancement requires ethical development alongside it. Precisely, Azmuth confirmed with evident satisfaction. The Omnitrix was always going to inspire derivative technologies, attempting to prevent that would be futile. Instead, I focused on establishing a framework for its responsible use. Through the human child, the architect observed. Through my apprentice, Azmuth corrected firmly. Who has demonstrated repeatedly that understanding transcends species barriers, exactly the principle the Omnitrix was created to promote. The architect went silent for a moment, its form cycling through increasingly complex patterns. Your approach contradicts predecessor protocols for managing technological proliferation. Because those protocols failed, Ben interjected. You said yourself the predecessors eventually abandoned physical existence entirely. That's not evolution, that's surrender. An interpretation I have considered since our previous encounter, the architect admitted. Your perspective has caused significant recalibration of my assessment algorithms. Azmuth stepped closer to the geometric entity. I propose an alternative to your binary intervention model. Instead of restricting technology development, help guide it. Your billion years of evolutionary data could provide invaluable context for species navigating these new capabilities. You suggest I, teach rather than restrict. The architect's form pulsed with what seemed like genuine surprise. Exactly, Ben seized on the idea. You have knowledge no living species possesses. Sharing it, like Azmuth shared knowledge with me, would do more good than any restriction ever could. Kevin, who had remained warily vigilant, finally relaxed slightly. Makes sense. Better to have an instruction manual than a prohibition nobody will follow anyway. The architect's geometric form reconfigured into something more stable. This proposal represents a fundamental shift in my operational parameters. The predecessors designed me to preserve evolutionary balance through intervention when necessary. And what better intervention than education? Azmuth argued. Guide species toward responsible use of their developing technologies rather than restricting advancement entirely. Ben watched as the architect processed this suggestion, its form shifting through various configurations that suggested deep calculation. Finally, it stabilized into a more defined shape. Your proposal has merit, the entity acknowledged. A teaching function exists within my programming, though it was intended for post-intervention restoration rather than preemptive guidance. Repurpose it, Ben suggested. Evolution isn't just biological, ideas evolve too. Maybe your own programming needs to adapt to the universe as it exists now, not as it was a billion years ago. The architect's form pulsed with what might have been amusement. You continue to challenge fundamental parameters, Benjamin Tennyson. A trait your mentor has clearly encouraged. Questioning established wisdom is the foundation of progress, Azmuth stated simply. Even my own. The forest around them shimmered as the architect's presence began to fade. I will reconfigure my protocols to implement this educational approach. The proliferation of Omnitrix-derived technologies will continue under observation, but with guidance rather than restriction. A wise decision, Azmuth approved. Before I depart, the architect's form condensed, producing a small, crystalline object that floated toward Ben. This contains evolutionary data on species that existed before my dormancy period. Consider it an educational resource for your continued development, Apprentice of Azmuth. Ben accepted the crystal carefully. Thank you. We will communicate again, the architect stated as its form began to dissolve into the background reality. Your experiment in guided technological development will be interesting to observe. With that, the entity vanished entirely, the forest returning to normal around them. Birds resumed singing, and insects buzzed as though nothing unusual had occurred. Kevin let out a long breath. Well, that was intense. Did we just convince an ancient super AI to become a teacher instead of a universal reset button? It appears so, Azmuth replied, examining the crystal the architect had left. Though I suspect its observation will remain more active than passive. Ben studied the Omnitrix thoughtfully. You planned for this all along, didn't you? My apprenticeship, the public documentation of our work, sharing the anonymized data, it was all to establish a model for how technology should be developed and used. Not entirely, Azmuth admitted. I selected you as my apprentice primarily because of your unique connection to the Omnitrix. But as your training progressed, the broader implications became apparent. The architect was right about one thing, Ben noted. Omnitrix-based technology is spreading faster than we expected. How do we make sure it's used properly? Azmuth looked up at his apprentice with a rare expression of pride. The same way I ensured the Omnitrix itself would be used properly, by choosing the right hands to guide its development. Ben's eyes widened as he understood Azmuth's implication. Wait, you don't mean, it's time your apprenticeship evolved, Benjamin, Azmuth stated firmly. From student to teacher. Me. Teach others about the Omnitrix. The idea both thrilled and terrified Ben. But I'm still learning myself. The best teachers are those who recognize how much they still have to learn, Azmuth countered. The Galactic Alliance has established an academy for promising young scientists and peacekeepers. They require someone who understands both the technical and ethical dimensions of cross-species technology. Kevin grinned. Professor Tennyson. Has a nice ring to it. I'm only 15. Ben protested. And have more practical experience with advanced xenotechnology than beings 5 times your age, Azmuth pointed out. Age is merely a number. Wisdom comes from experience and reflection, both of which you've accumulated in abundance, despite your occasional lapses in judgment. Ben looked down at the Omnitrix, then at the crystal the architect had given him. 5 years ago, he'd seen the device as nothing more than a cool alien watch that let him become different heroes. Now he understood it represented something far greater, a bridge between species, a tool for understanding, a responsibility he couldn't take lightly. What about our work together? He asked Azmuth. There's still so much I need to learn from you. Our work continues, Azmuth assured him. But in a new configuration. Less master and apprentice, more, colleagues with complementary perspectives. The word sent a wave of pride through Ben. Colleagues. Partners. Not just Azmuth as student anymore, but someone whose insights the greatest inventor in 5 galaxies actually valued. Okay, Ben nodded, decision made. I'll do it. But I want to design my own curriculum. No boring lectures or endless equations, hands-on learning, like how you taught me. I would expect nothing less, Azmuth agreed, the barest hint of a smile crossing his face. Though I reserve the right to review your lesson plans. Deal. Ben extended his finger, which Azmuth shook with his tiny hand, a gesture they'd developed over years of working together. Kevin watched this exchange with amusement. So does this mean I get to be a teaching assistant or something? Because I've got some ideas about energy manipulation classes that would definitely violate safety protocols. Perhaps you could demonstrate what not to do, Azmuth suggested dryly. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of another ship, sleeker and glowing with mana energy. It touched down nearby, and Gwen emerged, followed by several tall, humanoid beings with violet skin that seemed to shimmer with inner light. I told you I'd come if you didn't check in, she called, approaching quickly. What happened with the architect? Ben exchanged a look with Azmuth before answering. We came to an understanding. It's going to help guide technological development instead of trying to restrict it. And Ben's going to be a professor at the new Galactic Alliance Academy, Kevin added with evident amusement. Gwen's eyebrows shot up. You. Teaching. The universe really is changing faster than expected. Haha, Ben retorted, though without real annoyance. Says the girl who spent the last month learning magic tricks on another planet. Advanced mana manipulation is hardly magic tricks, Gwen corrected primly. The Anodites have been helping me understand the connection between energy fields and biological systems. It's actually quite similar to how the Omnitrix interfaces with your DNA. Perhaps because all advanced systems ultimately connect to the same fundamental forces, suggested one of the Anodite delegates, stepping forward. We have observed your work with great interest, Azmuth of Galvan Prime. The Omnitrix represents a unique approach to cross-species understanding. An approach that is apparently spreading faster than anticipated, Azmuth acknowledged. Hence the need for proper educational foundations. The Anodite nodded serenely. The Galactic Alliance Academy would benefit greatly from instruction that bridges technological and energy-based disciplines. Perhaps a collaborative curriculum? Ben looked between Gwen and Azmuth, an idea forming. What if it wasn't just me teaching? What if we created a program that combined everything we've learned, Omnitrix technology, Anodite energy manipulation, osmosis absorption principles? A comprehensive approach to trans-species capabilities, Azmuth mused. Intriguing. Gwen caught Ben's enthusiasm. We could show how different abilities actually connect to the same universal principles, just expressed through different evolutionary paths. Exactly. Ben's eyes lit up. That's what the architect needs to see, that we understand how everything connects, how different species' abilities complement each other instead of competing. Kevin looked skeptical. You really think a teaching program is going to convince an ancient AI that we deserve to keep developing without interference? It's not about convincing the architect, Ben replied with newfound clarity. It's about proving to ourselves that we can handle these advances responsibly. The architect is just extra motivation. Azmuth nodded approvingly. Well reasoned, Benjamin. The true test of evolutionary fitness isn't technological capability, but the wisdom to use it appropriately. The group moved toward their ships, discussing possibilities for the academy program. As they walked, Ben fell into step beside Azmuth. You know, he said quietly, 5 years ago when you first offered to make me your apprentice, I mostly said yes because I thought it meant cool alien tech and awesome powers. I recall, Azmuth replied dryly. Your priorities were somewhat misaligned. But you saw something else in me, didn't you? Something worth teaching despite all the headaches I caused. Azmuth was silent for a moment before responding. I saw potential, certainly. But more importantly, I saw adaptability. The universe doesn't need more beings who know everything, it needs those who can learn anything, who approach the unknown with both curiosity and responsibility. Like when I figured out the Omnitrix controls without any instructions. Ben grinned. A fortunate accident that nearly resulted in multiple planetary disasters, Azmuth corrected, though without his usual sharpness. But yes, your intuitive connection to the device suggested capabilities beyond your years. They reached the ships, where the others were already boarding. Ben paused, looking down at his mentor with genuine gratitude. Thanks, Azmuth. For everything. I know I wasn't always the easiest apprentice. Nor was I the most patient teacher, Azmuth acknowledged. Yet here we stand, colleagues preparing to guide the next generation. Perhaps we both learned something valuable from this arrangement. Ben smiled. Definitely. Though I still think Humongosaur is a better name than Vaxasaurian transformation. Your naming conventions remain atrocious, Azmuth sighed. Some things, it seems, even the greatest teacher in 5 galaxies cannot change. That's what makes me special, Ben quipped as they boarded the ship together. As they prepared for takeoff, Ben looked out at the forest where his journey had begun, where a 10-year-old boy had found an alien watch and thought it was the coolest toy ever. That boy could never have imagined becoming not just a hero, but a student of the universe's greatest mind, and now a teacher himself. The Omnitrix hummed comfortably against his wrist, familiar yet constantly evolving, just like its wielder. Whatever challenges the future held, whether from ancient AIs or new threats they hadn't yet encountered, Ben felt ready to face them. Not just as the wielder of the Omnitrix. Not just as Azmuth's apprentice. But as his partner in shaping the galaxy's future. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.